Oh, catches me off guard every time.
I can.
We are going to start this morning with going over computer-aided design in your classrooms. So we have two websites that we use with our students to engage them with computer-aided design. Here at STARBASE, we start off with showing students a website that we use here called Onshape. And to engage our students with computer-aided design, we give them a starship that they're able to go on a scavenger hunt with. So actually, can you do Onshape first? Because I feel like it's then I put their continue.
You also do PowerPoint too.
Yeah, but the videos.
Yeah, just take videos.
And nothing else comes about the videos. No. So give us a second. We're going to pull up one of our websites. Tuesday. So the website that we are pulling up, which is Onshape, is a free website that you can use with your students. We can walk you through how to make accounts for Onshape, and then how you can engage your students in the classroom with computer-aided design.
Yeah, so what's nice about computer-aided design, and specifically this website called Onshape, is it is used by professional engineers in their jobs. So people will pay $10,000 per person to use Onshape in a professional setting. But as educators, any educator can get an account for free and start designing. So I'll take a look. Let's just see what a new screen looks like. So if I go to create new document, untitled, you can see just what a basic screen looks like. So this is like a blank document that you can start creating or start doing computer-aided design in. And really you can create anything that you would like. Let me show you some examples of things that we've created. So here is a dog tag, or a little plastic pendant that you can put on a necklace. We give these to students when they are working on their writing, or when they have really good writing. We'll give them an excellent writing badge. And they'll take this and they'll put it on their necklace. When we are doing Onshape in our classroom, we start off by showing them some different things. Let me pull that up so you can take a look at it. So when we are doing this with students, we usually start with this thing called Starship. This is just a program that we have made in STARBASE that helps students get used to navigating or using the mouse on the program. So for example, we teach students how to zoom in and out. So you'll see I'm going to zoom into the control center right here. And then they can zoom out. We also teach students how to rotate. So if we're going to rotate to shift different directions, we can see different sides. And we teach students how to pan, which is moving the starship without rotating it. Then we just give students some basic understandings of how to operate Onshape. So for example, if I wanted to make things transparent, I could go to the starship. I can make this transparent. zoom in now. And what's nice about this is it just gets students used to using a mouse. A lot of our students, they have iPads or they have cell phones, but they don't do a lot of work with computer and mouse. So really, many of them, this is their first opportunity to start playing with a mouse. If you're able to, when you're able to create an account, you also get access to a lot of different things that STARBASE offers. Let me see if I can find some of those for you.
Educator accounts.
Pull that up for you. So when you log in and you create your own educator account for onshape.com, you'll see it has the Learning Center here. When you click Learning Center, it takes you to a lot of resources that educators can use in their classrooms to introduce computer-aided design, to give students tasks within computer-aided design. Some of those, you go to educator resources here, are within lessons. You go in and click lessons. You'll see some examples of different things that you can do. For example, CAD, your robotics, communicating with your design. This is kind of artificial intelligence, at a very basic idea. CAD for robotics. And all these different options that you can do. One of their newer features is the curriculum. And in these courses, you'll find similar activities that we do here at STARBASE. You'll find a scavenger hunt. You'll find really basic building within Onshape. For example, here's them building a skateboard. They also look at a couple bikes. And really these lessons are just to get students introduced to computer-aided design so they can start operating the mouse and looking at the different aspects of what you're able to do on the website. And I'll stop there just to see if anyone has questions so far.
No questions for now, Perry.
Okay, thank you.
Oh, one question.
Okay.
And I'm gonna put this link in the chat so that you are able to give this to them, Emmanuel, if they are interested in getting these free accounts on Onshape. We are ready for the question.
Oh no, the question was about how to get an account. So that has been answered.
Perfect.
Yeah, perfect.
I will walk you through that right now. Excuse me. To get an account, the website I just sent you will take you to this screen. You can then click on create your free account. And it needs to say Onshape for education. And you will create an EDU account. And again, this is free for all educators and students. All that you have to do is have first, last name, your email address. You'll be able to put in whether or not you're the student or an educator if you want to create accounts for your students. And then what level that you are at. And once you're able to answer these 5 questions, it'll create you an EDU account where you're going to have access to all of these resources that you can share with your students. So this can be where, as an educator, you can assign them lessons, or as a student, they are able to freely navigate through this website without having any guidance from a teacher. So Onshape does a good job with giving you lessons and then having you be able to go through the lessons by yourself, giving information on how to build each component or part of whatever design you're building on Onshape.
Yeah, prior to using Onshape, I had no experience with computer aided design. So these lessons have helped me as an educator learn how to use Onshape and how to teach it better. So those resources can be really for teachers and students.
So I'm going to walk you through what one of these lessons could look like. So this is the first lesson that they suggest that you do as a learner on Onshape. So it starts off with a video about what is CAD and how computer aided design is used all around the world and how it can help engineers and designers bring any of their designs or creations to life in a 3D interface. Let's see. Yeah, we'll try and see if we can get the video to play.
Kiana, there's a question in the chat.
Oh, yes.
The question is, what is the particularity of Onshape compared to Fusion 360 or other 3D software?
Oh, yes. So when I am actually not as how would I say, like, not as aware or how to use Fusion 360. After we talk about Onshape, I'm also going to show you Tinkercad. But what I think what makes Onshape so great personally is how they make computer aided design accessible to everyone. So I, prior to working for STARBASE, have never used computer aided design. And when I used Onshape, it made it easier for me to understand what it is and how to use it. And then Ms. Young has raised her hand in the chat as well.
The one thing that I would add is the Onshape and computer aided design are the two programs that the Department of Defense has assigned to us. And so while Perry and Kiana may have more information on other programs, these are the two that we have been used and designated through the Department of Defense.
Tiffany. Thanks, Kiana.
Thanks. So I think I'm able to share the,
CAD, or computer-aided design, is a tool used by engineers and designers to bring their ideas to life. CAD is used to model and
Students, give me 1 second. Excuse me.
engineered designs, allowing engineers to visualize, test fit, and explore how mechanisms function before prototyping or manufacturing. CAD provides users with an efficient and robust engineering environment to test, design, and implement their ideas. It is used in a vast variety of fields and industries, including automotive, aerospace, architectural design, product design, machine design, and several others. Designing in a CAD system enables engineers and designers to iterate on designs quickly and inexpensively. CAD models can be reviewed, analyzed, and updated, ensuring the design is operational and safe before beginning the prototyping and manufacturing stages. CAD saves resources and cost by reducing errors, miscalculations, and time to market. To better appreciate the advancement of CAD, it's important to look back at how the design process has evolved. The history of CAD is a fascinating story, spanning a nearly 60-year-long timeline and incorporating multiple technological and platform shifts. For a full and excellent narrative, please feel free to browse cadhistory.net. The nutshell version is a story that steps from a completely manual process using drafting boards through some of the earliest software work in relational geometry from people like Ross, Cohen, Sutherland, all the way through to today's distributed software as a service platforms. The early work on hardware and software was largely academic until the mid-60s, when for the first time, the availability of commercial mainframes in the deep pockets of the largest corporations, such as GM, General Dynamics, and others, enabled the application of these technologies to commercial and military purposes. These systems were expensive and primitive by today's standards, largely duplicating the wireframe manual drafting process, and ran on proprietary hardware, but it was a start. By the 1980s, we had the next platform shift: the personal computer and the x86 instruction set chips from Intel. With office computers and the arrival of a certain company, Marin Software Partners, that later became Autodesk, affordable computer-based drafting in 2D became available. In parallel to this migration to the personal computer, another startup successfully married the emerging technology of solid geometry kernels to the Unix desktop workstation. Much of the research was done at Cambridge University, UK, and commercialized by a number of prior companies, including Matra Datavision, Euclid, and others. The Unix desktop workstation could handle a significantly greater computational workload. The startup in question incorporated in May 1985 as Parametric Technology Corporation, or PTC. And while not the first solid modeler, it did introduce the concept of parametric features, or the formulaic sequential regeneration of a model. The next platform shift was capitalized on by the 1993 incorporation of Winchester Design Systems that later became SolidWorks, and the 1994 commercial release of a product by the same name. This time, the new platform was a standardized interface of the MS Windows operating system and UI development tools that worked across x86 hardware platforms. SolidWorks was also the first large-scale commercial CAD application that made heavy use of off-the-shelf technologies for core capabilities. Parasolid for the kernel functions and D-Cubed for 2D and 3D constraint solvers. 3D parametric feature-based CAD has become the standard for manufacturing and design companies. As companies rely more and more on these systems to innovate and design, more and more data is generated. To keep all the files protected and revision managed, companies invest in product data management, or PDM, and product lifecycle management, or PLM systems. These systems protect data in a vault, require a check-in, check-out process, and revision manage the designs. They allow companies to track a design from conception through the engineering process, and in the case of lifecycle management, to the end of its life.
Okay, we're gonna stop there so that we can kind of discuss. That was just a little quick overview on what CAD is. But back to your students being able to use this as a resource. So now on the corner right here, I don't know if you can see it, there's a green check mark. and it lets you track your progress. And so all of the activities on Onshape are self-paced and will walk you through all that you need to know to start designing on a CAD website that is Onshape. Anybody have any questions?
Yes, one question, Kiana.
Yes.
Does designing on Onshape or really just creating computer-aided designs, is it always a necessity to have a 3D printer where at the end you will need to basically print the design, or can just having the designs in there really help the students either better grasp the concept, or, and that sort of leads into my second question: how important is CAD in facilitating students who are trying to grasp them?
Yeah, so having a 3D printer is nice. It helps students see their prints in person and hold them in their hands. However, the main things we want students to learn from computer-aided design is how to navigate or how to work around the website, how to do these basic design principles like rotating, panning, yes. These are all tools that are going to help them if they want to go into engineering. Because I would say almost all engineering jobs are going to have something to do with computer-aided design. So that giving them that experience is extremely helpful in helping them be successful as potential engineers.
And then to follow up on your second question, a part of the engineering design process is creating prototypes. And so we encourage students to know that when engineers are doing the engineering design process, they will do their prototypes on a computer-aided design website to see different types of designs that they can make. And so this is how you can relate why it is important for students to use CAD in their learning and exploration of STEM.
One more thing I would like to add is CAD has a lot of connections to mathematics, and it can help students understand a lot of different mathematic concepts, specifically in geometry. A lot of us don't have every shape students need to know. For example, we might not have a cube on hand, or a sphere, or a cone, or a tetrahedron. All of these shapes can be made in Onshape, and students can look at them in a three-dimensional aspect. And there's been a lot of research that shows that students using or looking at shapes and interacting with them in a 3D rendered website has major benefits for helping them understand mathematics.
Yeah, definitely. Thank you. That answers my question perfectly. Then another question is, a lot of the efforts to promote STEM education here in the country involves going to rural areas where really having a computer is not feasible, but we could have a tablet available. So have you tried using CAD on the tablet? Could we really recreate the same things on the tablet if we have like a portable tablet and we're trying to show kids in a very remote community how they can link certain math concepts to the 3D design? Is that feasible?
For Onshape is not great on a tablet. You can hook up a mouse to a tablet if you get a 3D mouse. That would help a lot with Onshape. But we are going to show you another computer-aided design website that is a little bit better on tablets.
Okay, thank you.
I would also say that Onshape has very good keyboard shortcuts that could be done on a tablet, but as Perry mentioned, it's not going to be as user-friendly as it could be without a mouse.
Okay, thank you.
Hello. I have a question. I usually work with AutoCAD. I don't know if you know AutoCAD. It's an app for designing. I would like to know if it's possible to have, it's possible to work with Onshape offline. And I would like to know if there are more functionalities in Onshape we can find instead of using AutoCAD.
For Onshape, Onshape is a cloud-based system, meaning that everything you do is saved to the internet and it's not a downloaded program. So you can use Onshape on any computer. However, you can't use it offline. You have to have the internet in order to log onto it.
Thank you.
Yeah. Hello. I wanted to ask another question. How can computer aided design, have you ever used it to teach some software apps to students like GeoGebra, for example, to better their understanding of some mathematical concepts? Thank you.
So just to clarify, when you say software apps, are you talking about coding websites?
Yeah. I'm talking about software apps. Like GeoGebra, for example.
With our program here at STARBASE, again, we are only working with 10 and 11-year-olds. And so our focus with them is just introducing them to computer-aided design and what this could look like. We do not go any deeper than walking them through how to create a sphere on there. And so we do not know ourselves how to relate computer-aided design to software. So that would have to be something we'd have to look into ourselves.
I will say one website I have used for more of the coding, internet coding is Scratch.com. Scratch.com allows students to create their own video games and just different things on the internet. They get to code kind of like a fake robot through a maze on the website as well. So that might be a resource for more software-based.
Okay, I wish to know if those designs can actually be printed using 3D machines.
Yes, you can print all of the designs that you create on Onshape onto a 3D printer. And let's see if I can show you how we could do that.
Hi, this is Tiffany. I want to know, Emmanuel, how many there do you all have access to 3D printers? And if so, how often do you use them?
We do have a 3D printer here on campus. We do 3D printing when we're having sessions with our students here at the summer camp we hold here. But it's not something that is easily accessible. Not very few people have 3D printers around. So it's used, but not widespread. It's kind of pricey.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, excuse us. Okay, so on your screen, you should hopefully see some of the designs that Perry has created on Onshape. And so, for example, I'm going to pull up one of our dog tags. And then on the bottom, we have these tabs. If I right click on it, I can click on export. excuse me, my mouse. And you have the ability to change what format you want to put it in. So to 3D print, it needs to be in, well, for us, it needs to be in STL. You can change where the numbers are for its format. You can change the unit that you put it in. So on Onshape, we tend to use inches here, but you can always change that on your end. And then you can export it. And then it will download to whatever 3D printing device website that you have connected to your computer. And so we use MakerBot, and I'm gonna let Perry kind of navigate through this on his computer.
Yeah, so this one is also cloud-based. However, we can download it also. We use MakerBot, like Kiana said, and it's called the Method X, this printer specifically. So if I go into here, my print preparation, you'll see my print pad, and I can upload the file that Kiana was just looking at. Just gonna get there. Perfect. Let's do this. The writing badge. So I put the writing badge in here. You'll see it come up. It'll come up on the 3D printer because our 3D printer, like Kiana said, takes STL files. So as long as we have those STL files, we can upload them directly into the printer, and then we can print them. And these are all just from Onshape. Stop there to see if there's any questions so far.
Thanks for now.
I was wondering, Emmanuel, what computer-aided design software they use in their classrooms, and if it has similar resources that we saw on Onshape.
So we personally at STEM Ignite, we have used Tinkercad a lot. Yes, that's really the only one we've been using. We have a 3D printer here where we do the designs there. We see how to slice them with Unity software here before we can 3D print them. So Tinkercad has been our go-to software here at STEM Ignite. So,
do they have videos to help students?
well, we've been refreshing a lot of YouTube tutorials.
Okay.
To really navigate Tinkercad and then do the slicing with the Unity software we're using here so it can fit on our printer.
That's great. What are some things that students have created?
Last thing we printed on the printer was a fidget spinner. We had the fidget spinner printed. We equally printed the casing for a Raspberry Pi. The one we had was good. We printed the casing for a Raspberry Pi.
Wow.
We have printed some 3D renderings of animals and plants too. Yeah. I think that sums it up.
Okay.
I think there's a question online.
Okay.
So the question is on Onshape, do we have the possibility to bring a drawing that is 3D to 2D?
Let me show you the website and we'll see if it answers the question. I'll screen share that really quickly right here. So I'll go to just the blank document that I created earlier. So on here, we can sketch top plane. And so let's say, for example, we're going to make a rectangle. So here is my rectangle. So this is a 2D shape. So if I wanted to, I could go in and extrude this. Make it 1 inch. And now it's a 3D shape. So if we wanted to make this back into 2D, we can just delete our extrusion to make it back into 2D. I believe that is the question, unless someone has anything they want me to clarify.
The person online to confirm if that answers this question.
Okay.
So yeah, I think that answers this question. Yeah.
Okay. One second, we're just looking for a tool real quick.
Yes, give me 1 second. He's like, you turn from perspective view to the 3D tool. So we are going to show you some examples of some of the items we have 3D printed. What I think is very cool about what we do with computer-aided design here at STARBASE is we have a lesson where we have students look at parts of a base that could be on Mars. And I'm gonna try to see if I can pull one of those up. So give me 1 second. And so the students create these bases by mating all of these parts together. So as a very basic introduction to computer-aided design, we give students all of these different parts that have been pre-created by Onshape, who is our support for computer-aided design with STARBASE. And we show students the different parts that they can add in, and they can drop it down. And we teach them how to fasten or connect the different parts. I gotta figure out where that went. To their base. And when they are done, we will 3D print this out for them. So the design that they made on Onshape, we will 3D print it for them. And then they get to take this home as a creation that they made on Onshape. And so Perry is going to show you a couple of those designs.
Okay, I'll try and get this close enough where you can see it. So here is an example of one of the bases that was created by a student. Here is the dog tag that is fully printed out. It says STARBASE High Sierra. I'm sure you can see that well enough. We've also made dog tags of different shapes. So we have, for example, this one says STARBASE. It's a little rocket ship. And we have the 3D printed puzzle. Nice little 3D puzzle we give as a reward. Then we have a little egg. It's a little egg with arms that we made. For one of our lessons, we do something similar to an egg drop. Basically, what we do is we give students a task where they have to design a safety restraint or they have to design a seatbelt for an egg. And then we launch it using our spaceship. So we also 3D printed that as well. If you look here, we had to 3D print each part by itself and then put it all together. But this is what we'll use for our kind of egg drop lesson, is the 3D printed plane. Any questions about anything that we 3D printed?
No questions for now.
Is there any questions about Onshape or how to use that as a program before I move on to Tinkercad?
No questions for now.
So the other website that we encourage our teachers that come through our program to show to their students is Tinkercad. Sorry, keep forgetting we're not near the keyboard. Tinkercad, as I'm sure Emmanuel can explain as well, is a lot more user-friendly for children, I believe. And it is able to also walk them through computer-aided design. This one is more of an AutoCAD than Onshape is, but both websites are still very useful to exposing your students to computer-aided design or CAD. This website also allows you, sorry, I don't know if I'm sharing my screen. I'm not, excuse me. This website also allows you to create student accounts. Again, this is all free. So as an educator, you're welcome to create an account here. You have the ability to do safe mode if you're working with younger students, so that you're able to moderate what they're doing. They're unable to share their designs publicly or use them as, or post comments with people outside of their classroom. And again, you can make these accounts and they are free for educators. Give me 1 second. Just gonna sign up. So, say again?
You try and sign in and see if I can see that.
Oh, okay, give me 1 second. I can get signed in.
Sure.
Put in a random date. That makes me old enough to be on here. Okay. Okay, so this is what the website looks like for Tinkercad. So again, as an educator, you're able to create a class. You can name it for your students. You can select the grade level that they're going to be in. And then they give you areas on what best fits for the students you're focusing on. So we can, oh, why do I keep trying to? So once you have set up a classroom on Tinkercad, you're able to go through some of the tutorials that they have on there and assign them to your students to help them create on Tinkercad. I will say that when it comes to being able to really see your students' designs, Tinkercad is just as easy to look through as it is with Onshape. On Tinkercad, you can do things like, again, 3D design. You're able to have students create lights and movements and do circuits. And we someone asked us a little earlier about doing code blocks on a computer-aided design website, and Tinkercad has that option as well. I'm personally not as familiar with the code blocks, but it is something on there that you can explore to help guide your students into understanding code blocks on a computer-aided design website.
And similar to Onshape, the really nice thing about Tinkercad is, like Emmanuel mentioned, there's a lot of videos on YouTube that can teach you. Tinkercad itself has tutorials that it will walk you through exactly how to do something. Oftentimes, some things can be difficult, so it will take some trial and error. However, there are so many resources that can help you, which is nice.
So on my screen, I have pulled up some of their free lessons that they give to teachers to help students be able to use their software for computer-aided design. And so they have a way to organize what route or lesson that you're trying to expose your students to. So for example, if you wanted to do robotics, they can show you how to invent a device that can move through a pipe, like a robot. They have just very simple design. So create a skateboard. You can design a room so that they're able to be very creative and use art and challenge themselves to create a room. And students are able to walk through, and you can send this to them, and it will help walk them through how to design and build on Tinkercad. So again, as you can see on my side over here, they are walking through with timing as well as steps to making your students successful in creating their own measuring tools. And same with Onshape, you are able to take these 3D created objects and 3D print them to whatever 3D printer software that you use for your 3D printing. And I will stop there to see if anybody has any questions.
No questions for now.
Manuel, I know that you said you use Tinkercad also. Is there anything that you would like to add?
Yes, I think I could share my screen so I could.
Yeah, I'll share it.
Let me give you permission. There you go. You should be able to share your screen.
So these are a lot of the things we done. This entire drive here and these pictures here is us working on various Tinkercad projects. So the very first one that we used Tinkercad with was trying to teach kids electronics and how to use Arduino, for example. So with our very limited resources, we have just about 2 or 3 Arduino boards for about 100 students. So the way we make learning easier and have everybody have an immersive and interactive session is we pull up the on Tinkercad. Now every student can have a Tinkercad account. All of them had phones, luckily, so they could even do on their phones. They could write the code blocks for the Arduino, and they could start creating basic circuits like the light blink or solving an issue like that of traffic and traffic control system, or solving climate issues by creating light sensitive bulbs that would just turn off when there's light. So we give them a couple of problems and thematics that they can resolve by just pulling up Tinkercad designs. And this is free and very accessible. And from my experience with the very point and the connection we have here, Tinkercad worked just fine. So it was very valuable in coping with the very limited resources we have, because we cannot buy 100 Arduinos for all the students, but all of them could do and test their designs on Tinkercad, and then we pull up the 3 Arduinos that we have and have them form really large groups and implement their secrets in real life. It equally helped us So you can see here, after they've done their design on Tinkercad, they were able to form groups and realize the same designs with a few Arduino boards that we have. And we were able to do these really cool competitions where we will team them in groups and time them, give them a problem to solve. We know that all the resources are available virtually on Tinkercad, so they are timed, and it's a very fun way for them to learn. You can see how very exciting they are. They are prototyping on Tinkercad really rapidly. Once they're done with the Tinkercad prototype, they have a very limited amount of time to implement the same thing on the real life Arduino that we have. So this was really, really good for our electronics category of the camp. Similarly, we did same things with the 3D printer. You can see this is the 3D printer we have here on campus. So it helped us to print a lot of the models that we needed. For example, the students were able to build this smart irrigation system, and a lot of the parts that they use for the housing and all were 3D printed, I think, yes. So they were able to have this. Let me zoom in a little bit. So yes, they were able to do a prototype of this with wood, and then later on be able to see how they can model that same prototype with Tinkercad. This helps them think big. If what they're doing needs to be industrialized and mass produced, they should be able to come up with a 3D model of it, and really helps them to think a lot bigger than what they are doing now. But we always start with the rudimentary things that we have, start with the 3D model or the resources that Tinkercad can offer. If we're able to send a 3D prototype from Tinkercad to the 3D printer, we do that. If we're able to leverage on maybe a few boards that we have like the Arduino, we do that. All of that prototyping and really be able to visualize the idea, and when they're lucky, touch what they prototyped, facilitates learning. It makes the kids grasp concepts that would normally take a lot longer. We were able to walk them through Tinkercad, and they started doing their first prototypes within 2 days, telling you how it is easy and user-friendly to use Tinkercad. And with the circuits that they have, they can test the code. It has code blocks, so they're able to test the code either with Scratch. With the younger students who use Scratch, they're able to use Scratch and make a bulb blink. The much older students are able to write C code, and everything works. It makes learning a lot easier. Yeah. That's something.
That is awesome. That's so cool.
Yeah, wow, the creativity that the students have in their creations and you have in your what you've done with them is amazing to see.
Yeah, that's
Really great. Wow.
amazing.
Thank you.
You mentioned that you give students, groups of students, design challenges or problems to solve, and then limit the time they have to solve them.
Yes.
What is an example of a problem that they solve?
So one of the last design challenges we had with electronic circuits. So there were tasks with making a light bulb just go off when there is someone around the bulb. So if someone walks in a room, we related it to an actual house. So if someone walks in a room, the light bulb should go off. If there is sunlight, the light bulb should be off. So the only time where the light bulb should shine is when it's completely dark. So if you look at it on Scratch, it's about 3 iterations of code blocks or instructions that will help that happen. And on Tinkercad, we have all the components to make that happen. We are able to simulate light with a bulb. We're able to simulate the actual bulb that is coming on and off with an LED. And then all the instructions can be sent on an Arduino. So the younger kids will reproduce the same thing with Scratch, and then the other ones will actually try and write out the code for that. We did a brief introduction to C, that's the Arduino related C, and doing it and being able to show them how the code instructions they're sending are able to reflect on the device, made them grasp it a lot faster.
Emmanuel, we cannot see you all on screen.
Oh, I'm not on the camera.
I like how you connect the problem to real life. I think that contextualizes computer aided design really well when you're talking about a house and how they're able to recognize the amount of light in a room. That's really amazing. That's a problem that I would have difficulty solving.
Yes, and it didn't just start there. We started with a story about climate change and how people could reduce their carbon footprint by reducing the electricity consumption. So it was the whole story that led to them hopping on Tinkercad and solving that problem. We brought up issues with climate change. We brought up issues with high electricity bill. So how can a user reduce his carbon footprint, minimize the cost of electricity by first automating just the light bulbs? If they're able to automate the light bulbs, they can automate different areas of the house, other electronics in the house, ACs and all, but we started with the light bulb. So we have this issue, which is that is related to climate change. And we want to start mitigating this user's footprint by just automating his lighting system. From there, we hopped on Tinkercad and just had them do a prototype and then reproduce that same prototype with the kits we have here. We have about 2 Arduino kits on campus. We get about 100 students every session. So that's a good way to have everybody interact and immerse themselves with the learning process.
Yeah, wow, it sounds like you're using a lot of project-based learning, and I can tell why the students are so engaged. I love that you're connecting it to that bigger concept of global warming. That's amazing.
Yes, the project-based approach really helps contextualize things. They're able to know the purpose behind what they are doing. They can easily relate with it. They know, they better understand the concepts of global warming and climate change. They understand that doing this on a larger scale will help save money on electricity bills. So these are all things they are already familiar with, or they have heard about it. So when they place themselves in the role or the job of a problem solver, they are a lot more excited to hop on and do this project.
Yeah, that's fantastic.
Yeah. And you can see them really brainstorming on this, and because they know they're not just solving a problem, they are potentially solving a problem on a global scale. So it makes learning very exciting for them.
Yeah, definitely to have that feeling that you're making an impact is huge.
Yeah.
Yeah, I need that real world connection.
Wow.
Any questions? All right.
No questions from us.
Just watching.
Emmanuel, this is Tiffany. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Yes, we can hear
I'm
you.
not sure.
I wish there was an opportunity where we would be able to show some of our students in Starbase, either show the videos or some way that we could have a scheduling time where they could see people in Cameroon doing the work as well. So you and I are going to brainstorm about that.
All right.
Wow.
And they had like 0.8 with what they are doing. And all groups that were working on the problems were able to come up with a solution completely unneeded. And it's equally very useful when you're trying to give them work after the sessions or things that they can do at home. You can pull up a Tinkercad design, or you can design something and maybe add missing pieces, and they have as assignment to go back and reproduce it and solve the issue behind it. Or you just give them a problem and tell them to prototype this on Tinkercad. The next day they come up with something. So it keeps them busy even after school hours or the sessions that we have working with them.
Wow.
I think that is all I have here as videos.
Thank you for sharing.
Mhm.
Welcome.
How often are you doing computer aided design with your students?
Our summer camps last about 2 months. The students that are interested in electronics and robotics, they are constantly doing CAD. We have students that are equally interested in just learning 3D modeling, and they constantly do computer-aided design there. Not even with Tinkercad. I think they use SolidWorks. Yes, they use SolidWorks, and they understand the entire concepts of CAD. They don't usually get to print what they have done, except they're working on like little projects, but they will have designs of robotic arms or houses and other conceptual designs like that. Mhm. We don't do a lot of 3D printing because we have like very limited filament. So, but they do a lot of the designs.
And then Tiffany asked in the chat, do you have the same students come back over and over again?
Yes, we have the same students come back every summer. We have new students, and then we have returning students too. Since our camp is divided in different categories, students will come back and they will have interest in something else. So if during the last camp their focus, because we have global sessions where everybody's learning concepts like engineering design process, everybody learns that no matter what their camp focus is. So we have camp focus on coding, we have camp focus on electronics, IoT, and robotics. We have camp focus on 3D modeling and equally cyberspace security. So students tend to rotate. If last summer they were learning computer-aided design in the 3D modeling camp, they will come back and focus more maybe on robotics. And those returning students come in with expertise. They help the students that are, for example, just new to electronics, IoT, and robotics. They come in with their expertise in CAD, and they make the entire sessions a lot easier for the newer students.
Wow. That's amazing.
So they probably build their skill set every year. It's very cool.
Yeah.
All right, what I'll do is I'm gonna take you over to our 3D printer so you get a look at what we're working with.
Okay.
So there's nothing 3D printed right now, but you'll be able to see things that we 3D printed yesterday.
Okay.
So give me a second while I unplug the computer and move you around a little bit.
Take the webcam.
This is our lab. You'll be able to see here. We do a
And
lot of our
Carrie's
computer-aided
walking you-
design. We use our
Yeah.
projector so that we can show examples on the board and the instructor can walk you through it. And then our 3D printers are back here. We have two different MakerBot 3D printers. We have the replicator, which is here.
Hey, pause. Emmanuel, can you still see and hear us? Oh, your sound.
Yes, we can still see you.
Give us
and
1
hear you.
second.
Sorry, one more time. Can you see and hear us?
Yes, we can see you and hear you.
Okay. So this is our replicator. You'll see here we're printing more of the students' bases that they were able to create. We give one to each student who comes through the program. And then this is our Method X. We put on the Method X, we print ABS-R, and we also use a filament called Rapid Rinse, which can be a toxic filament when printing with, which is why you'll see at the top we have our filter there, just to keep the air clean. And then to the right, we have a wash tank. This wash tank is for the filament. So we have some filament that dissolves in water, and that's typically the support material we use to print over. And that would be for the Method X here. Let's see, we just printed some more dog badges for the students. Okay, give us a second to just set the computer back up.
All right.
In the meantime, does anybody have any questions about what 3D printers we use?
Any questions? No questions for now.
Okay. Yeah, I saw that you have at your program you have the Elugo or ELOOG, I think something around those lines. I have used those before. Those are also very good 3D printers.
I didn't get you.
Well, I noticed that you have the printer that you have. We have worked with those as well. Those are really good 3D printers as well.
Oh, okay.
Do you like using it?
Yeah, but it is kind of slow. Takes a lot of time to produce it.
Yeah. Yeah, sometimes they're very slow.
And it takes a lot of effort to set it up, to calibrating it, to print properly.
What do you do?
We're switching.
Was there anything else related to computer aided design that you would like us to talk about?
No, I don't think anything specifically related to computer aided design. That was the question. And there's no question for now.
Okay.
So yesterday we had Emmanuel ask everybody there, what were some ideas that you wanted us to talk about?
Yeah.
And so I'm gonna. We did a little bit of research on the 3 questions that were asked. And so I'm going to briefly kind of go over how, we do this in STARBASE, as well as Perry and I's experience teaching STEM to students in a general ed setting classroom, where we are teaching math, science, language arts, and social studies. So let's put up our PowerPoint. So the first question that we received was inquiry-based learning. And so with talking to some of you this week, I feel like project-based learning and problem-based learning are something that you are already doing with your students. And so I wanted to show you this diagram on how project-based learning and inquiry-based learning are very similar. The root of all of these base learning activities is making sure that it is student-centered. So that means that the students are thinking about what they want to learn about. They are engaged in what they are learning because this is something that they have questioned about what is happening in their area. And by using inquiry-based learning, they are using their knowledge about their area to ask questions. All three of these encourage our learners to be critical thinkers and active learning, and that we want the students to do their own learning when they are doing these problem-based or inquiry-based learning. We want to make sure that with inquiry-based learning that it begins with a question. So we discussed phenomenons yesterday. And so phenomenons are big science questions that can be answered, but with inquiry-based learning, it is important that they are asking a question, researching their question, and then using that inquiry to then build or create what they are looking to answer. So with the example that we did yesterday with buoyancy, taking the lesson a step further with understanding density by having students create a clay boat to fully understand how the volume of an object can decide or scientifically prove whether or not it can sink or float is an inquiry for them, because they are getting that hands-on learning, and the end goal is to have them process of some sort of a discovery that they create with their inquiry. I'm going to stop there and see if anybody has any questions.
No questions for now.
To talk about the other two as well, because I do think, as it is a Venn diagram, that each type of base learning that you do with your students does have additional great things that you can do. So with project-based learning, their end goal is to create some sort of a visual or multimedia material that they will then present to all of their students. With project-based learning, these projects can take a various amount of time. So most project-based learning lessons take or can take months for students to really dig deep into the knowledge that they're trying to gain. Problem-based learning is very much so in the same realm of the engineering design process, which is taking a problem that students see or find and then trying to solve the problem in a real world context. So again, what all of these have in common is it makes sure that the students are at the center of all of their learning. It is extremely important if you want to create individual and independent learners, that when you do these base type learnings, that you give them and supply them with the tools to be successful, but it is their job to educate and inform themselves on what they are working on. And it is just your job as an educator to facilitate and to guide, and less teaching and talking to the students and more being there to support them through their discovery. And I think that is what is important when we talk about these different types of based learnings.
Thanks, Kiana.
Is there any questions on my based learning slide?
Yes, that's a question.
Yes.
Okay, hello. The question that I have is concerning assessment at STARBASE, since you have students that you teach and students have to acquire the skills. So do they take exams at the end to confirm that they have effectively acquired the skills? And then since STARBASE seems to be a STEM academy that is promoting just STEM, I would like to know whether at the end of the training for the students, do they have relay organizations, or like what is the fate of the students after they leave STARBASE? Thank you.
So we don't really do exams to end our program. We do it with one class a year, just to make sure that we are meeting the needs of our students. More so, what we do is a lot of our lessons have them perform some sort of task at the end. So for example, if we are launching catapults, we are in that lesson, we are investigating Newton's laws of motion. So in order for us to prove that they've learned it, the skills that we've taught, the students have to knock over a tower with a different projectile. They need to measure the distance. They need to show us these skills, and that's how we assess whether or not they got the information.
It is very informal in the sense that we are not taking a grade. We are looking at what the students are capable of doing after completing whatever activity we are doing.
Some of the kind of culminating or the end of the lesson activities might be a written response. So they have to answer a question, or they might also have to read a graph in some way. Tiffany, it looks like you raised your hand. Go ahead.
The other thing that I would add is that the way STARBASE operates is students come to us 1 day a week for 5 weeks. So after that 5 weeks, we see a brand new group of students. And the way the Department of Defense designed this was to build some foundational understanding for students so that when they go back into their traditional classroom, they're able to apply all the components of what they've learned at STARBASE. The assessment side, as Perry mentioned, does happen with one group, but I think the thinking behind not testing students all the time is that it's not traditional school, but an academy to provide them some tools and resources that would help increase some reading, math, and science skills when they go back into their classrooms.
And I also think that when we eliminate or take away the pressure of grades and testing, that I have noticed that students are more willing to fail and then learn from their mistakes instead of having that pressure that they have in their school settings to succeed and do well all the time. And so I do think here, not having that constraint for our students allows them to really dig deep into understanding and contextualizing why STEM is important for them as students.
Thank you, Kiana. Thanks, Stephanie. Similarly, at STEM Ignite and the 6-week summer program that we have, there's no assessment. It's very informal equally. The entire 6 weeks build up to the students resolving a problem. Yes. At the end of the summer camp, they have projects that they present. So that is really what the program is geared towards: solving a problem, coming up with a working prototype of any project of their choosing. They have the liberty to choose. We have various thematics. They have the freedom to choose what thematics they want to solve. And the other day they have a working, either a prototype virtually on Tinkercad, or they have, if we have the resources, if they are available, they can actually build that prototype. And we've actually realized the same thing, taking away the constraint of passing an exam frees the creative spirits of the student, knowing that what they are doing is not going to be graded on failure or anything, makes them willing to fail. And they fail a lot of times. And at the end of the day, everybody comes out with a working project. Being able to leverage on their creativity with ease, being able to dare really elevates their mind, elevates their spirit, makes them more confident. At the end of the day, they have things that are working, and from there they leverage on that, and they're able to do a lot of other amazing things. So we really take away or eliminate that element of having to test students. You have passed, you have failed, you have this score, you have an A grade, you have a B grade. No, we take that away, and the creative spirits of students roam free, and they do a lot of amazing things. Just to add on that.
Yeah, I think it's very important if you could find ways around having to give students grades. They really are more willing to take risk in their learning because they know that they aren't going to be academically impacted on paper for them to feel like they're successful. So that's just kind of where I'm at with that question. Did we answer both of their questions?
Did we answer the question? Yes, the question was answered.
Awesome.
Is an observation. I just wish to add that we, as teachers or facilitators in schools, we mostly use project-based teaching because we cannot actually run a whole program like STARBASE is running. There are many students, and then we have to certify the students at the end. And since we are teaching the students to gain skills and equally for them to be able to carry out certain tasks, and then equally develop the skills in them in producing, and then in aligning themselves towards a certain field, we teach them considering the fact that we have to assess them, the content, what the school system needs. That's why we use mostly project-based teaching. And with respect to what STEM Ignite is doing with STARBASE, we can only run those as parallel programs with the students. But when you are teaching the school system in Cameroon, you focus a lot on project-based teaching, which is more of giving them the skills and letting them orientate themselves towards specific disciplines. Thank you.
I 100% agree with what you were saying. I think more schools should move to project-based learning because it gives students the skills that they're going to use when they're out of their schooling life. Because when we are solving problems in our workplace, we are doing project-based learning when we are professionals. And so when we give students these tools when they're younger, it gives them time to really work through them and be able to be better problem solvers and critical thinkers when they are in the workforce as adults. Is there any other questions or thoughts?
One more.
Okay, thank you. I just wanted to ask that in STARBASE, Prof just said that in the Cameroonian curriculum, it is not easy for us to use the different project or the different learning, the different types of learning, or that is the project based, the problem based, or the inquiry based approach. So I wanted to ask that, can we use all at once, like in a single setting? Can we use all the different learning based approach? Can we use the different learning approaches? Because it's not easy implementing the project based at the same time, the inquiry based, and at the same time, the problem based approach. How can we use that?
So I'm gonna re-share my screen again, and then I can have Perry kind of jump in if he has any thoughts. But again, with the diagram, it is important to notice that there are parts of each of these base learnings that do not overlap. And so the parts that we do want to know that are the same is that it is student-centered, it encourages their active learning and critical thinking, and that it has effective models for learning. So that when you're doing these different based type learning projects or problems, you can find the one in the moment that best suits the needs of your students at that time. So you could do inquiry-based learning for one topic and have it be, maybe 2 or 3 weeks of them researching a question that they might have, and then turn that question and their answer into something that could be a project-based learning. So you can use their different types of base learnings to help lead through the different types of base learning projects. I don't necessarily know if you need to try and use all 3 at the same time, but you can use them to lead into a different type of base learning, if that makes sense.
And I would also add that each of these projects, they have a lot of similarities, and they're all very powerful. However, similar to a lot of things in education, it's better to focus on one and do one really well, and then move to another. So like Kiana said, doing an inquiry-based, doing that to completion and really focusing on those skills. And then for the next project or idea, moving to a project-based learning, and then moving to a problem-based learning. They can all be used, but yeah, using them one at a time, I think, is a little bit more beneficial.
Does that answer your question?
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. So Tiffany has a question for all participants. Could you share some of your STEM success stories? How do you know if the approach you've used with your students is successful? Does anyone want to go? Okay. Please send the mic over. Yes.
I'll, I'll start by saying majority of my students that have engaged in the fields of engineering. And I think I have over 500 students that are currently, they come back for feedback in the schools that I'm teaching. And then they talk to the junior students. This is because most of the times when I engage the students, we, like I said, we use project-based. I use mostly project-based teaching. I compare them to build models or do certain things. We create real life things, like we reduce, we can do, we pick any project. We say, okay, this is what we are supposed to work on. By the end of the academic year, the students have already produced some of those things. It motivates them to actually, they actually look for the materials themselves. Once they assemble the materials, they get into work. And then it's just that I don't have the pictures here. I could be showing, I could share them, that we find the students actually working on those things. And then most of them, like whenever I get a discussion with them, they always tell me that, sir, it is because of this that we actually engage into this field of engineering. And this has actually made me to be motivated, even in teaching, because once you get their products coming back to tell you that this is why they are doing this, and most of them today, they're actually civil engineers, electrical engineers, and then some are structural engineers. And at any time that I call these students to come back, my ex-students to come back to the school, they're always happy to come and they share their experiences with the younger ones. And then that tends to motivate the students, that you give them the task. And they always say, whatever thing that he tells you people to do, just do it. The future is bright for you. So I think sharing this is a way of making maybe teachers know that whatever thing that they get involved in, the type of activities that they ask the students to engage into, the types of problems that the students solve actually motivate the students and they shape their future. Thank you.
Thank you for sharing.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay.
Okay, thank you again. I just want to share my experience to working with my students, actually as a STEM advocate, and also as a computer science teacher. I have always used the project-based learning, not really knowing. It's just today that I'm really differentiating between the project-based, the inquiry-based, and the problem-based. Most of the times I've designed projects with my students in school. We always first we start with creating something like maybe a design for it on the computer or on the papers. Then we now see how we can implement the design. And most times we always do it when we implement something, might be something like at the level of the primary, we start with something like a cover page or a dustbin, an automatic dustbin where you can just put you can make it open with your leg and you throw that inside. So we start with little projects, we do the designing, and we implement it now. So the students tend to get more involved in the project. They tend to look for materials. Everybody wants to build his or her own project. Then everybody wants to think of a new project. Like, I don't want to do the same thing with this. So sometimes I do like a competition. I ask them to go back and bring different projects, bring different ideas that they can implement. When they go back, they bring the ideas, and okay, I say, fine, this is your idea. We are going to do this, so you have to provide the materials. We start building something from scratch. So it makes them more engaged. It makes them to go and think more. And sometimes they have produced the light bulbs, the lighting system. using the small bulb of a torch and some batteries. And that is, we have done smaller projects as such. And then when the students from maybe other departments, they see, they want to engage too, because there is one thing we call the coaching session. So everyone belongs to a different coaching session. You can choose engineering, you can choose arts, arts and craft, you can choose music. So when the music students see what we are producing now, everybody wants to get engaged. Everybody wants to know more about your experiments. Everybody wants to do engineering. Everybody wants to do something that is related to science. So that is my own experience from the project-based approach. Thank you.
Yes, thank you.
That's also great. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone. My experience as a teacher with STEM, this is a science experiment I had to do with grade 7 students. We're treating the topic acids and base. So what I had to do with them was to let them work as, that was teaching focus on teamwork and collaboration, more like project-based. So I had to let them be able to get our common fruits that we find out, go to the community, try to get our common things that we find out here to be able to test whether they are acids or base. And I told them we have a very common indicator, which is our red cabbage, which is very common in our markets in Africa. So they could get it. And I happened to group them into 3 groups of 4, where they had to go out after school hours, look for these various solutions, let's say citric solution from limes and lemon. They had to do all these collections, come to the lab, and each and every group carry its own test, get its own results, get its own color changes after putting indicators in various of these test tubes. After all that had been done, they had to take the results and see how these color changes were taking place. This called a lot of interest from them. It had a lot in developing their skills, because going out there looking for these various solutions, it's all about their research skills they were trying to develop. Engaging together, they had to develop their communication skills, because as a group, you have to do all these things together. So my teaching was more focused on teamwork and collaboration, and to see how they reason out together and develop in their social skills too. So that is it as far as my STEM, one of my STEM projects was concerned with the children of the grade 7. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Any other person?
No one else has something they want to share on their STEM success story?
Thank you for sharing. Those are some amazing stories. I mean, the project-based learning, the engineering, the going out in the community, those sound amazing.
Yeah, you were all doing amazing things with your students. Pretty cool.
If I could just add on that, one of the success stories that we've had at STEM Ignite is having a batch of campers coming with a lot of girls, initially very scared about getting hands-on with anything, scared about modeling, the modeling designs, or touching circuits, or even building on prototypes and the like. But by the time we are done with the 6 weeks, they are leading project teams. They are the ones leading the project teams where they are. And that for me is one of the ways that we are able to immediately gauge the impact of how immersive, how soothing, how fun the environment we created for these kids were. You have kids that initially were like, okay, here in Cameroon, by the time you're in high school, you have to decide if you're going to be studying science or you're going to be studying engineering. So for our boot camps, we get kids that are in Form 4, Form 3. That is about two classes before they get to high school. And at that point, a lot of students have made up their mind. You can understand how quickly a student gets into secondary school in Form 1. And by the time they're in Form 3, Form 4, they're like, I am not doing science. There's no way it's possible for me to do science. And that's about 4 classes before they're grading out of high school. So you see how early the problem or the fear of science stems in, right in Form 3. I think now in Form 4, you have already decided if you're doing S1 or A or whatever. So yeah, so 4 classes before you graduate high school, secondary school, students have already made up their mind that they cannot take on STEM-related study tracks, that it's not meant for them. It is way too scary. They don't understand anything. And that's usually because in the classes, they've been made to find X. The math teacher has told them that they are too stupid to do any maths. And immediately, they're like, they cannot do this. They are frustrated. Because if you cannot, maths is the fundamental requirement for you to do science. So if your teacher has called you, in quotes, stupid, I personally don't believe any student is stupid. Students just don't have the right approach, don't just get the right approach for learning. Everybody learns differently. And we don't take that into consideration. So people are visual learners. That's why these 3D models, being able to do computer-aided design really helps on students. We have been able to make students understand trigonometry with drones. We're taking drones, having them program the drones, having a drone move at a specific angle, take a specific bend, all that is trigonometry, sine and cosine. The concepts that they usually do not understand in the classroom. They're like, why are we even doing sine or cosine? How many of you have ever known why you were doing sine or cosine and all that trigonometry? A lot of people don't even know the purpose behind that. But when they join the robotics electronics category of the bootcamp, we studied the drone. We have the Telo drone. We have a Telo drone here. We have just one of it. We're able to afford just one. But every student is able to do prototyping with that one version that we have. Every student can write his code and come and test on that one drone that we have. So and they have to code the drone by doing the maths. So he wants the drone to website. You see the cover page there is a girl holding the drone. Yeah. And they did that live here. They coded the drone. If they want the drone to maybe go around this entire classroom and take bends at specific areas, they're applying trigonometry. And they were amazed at seeing where they can apply trigonometry. And that immediately, using technology to make that connection between maths, physics, and a natural component of trigonometry, completely opened their mind. They were now, first they find purpose behind the trigonometry. So even if they're not understanding it, they make sure they want to understand it because they want to make their drone move and take swirls around the places. And then we apply, and then we tell them that this is how you can use this drone and move across a farm, an agricultural field. And if this drone is equipped with sprayers or whatever, you can just spray your entire field, your entire farm with fertilizers or insecticides. That reduces the need for you to employ a lot of people. And we have some people that are passionate about agriculture. They grew up in farms and all that, and they want to be industrialists in agriculture. Africa is good at agriculture. So we give students the means, we give them the vision, and then they actually practice it hands-on here. Believe me, a lot of our students came in as people that wanted to do arts. By the time I graduated, they were science. I want to do science. I want to own my farm. I know that I can program a drone to pilot. I can program a drone with the maths I'm learning here. They find purpose behind that maths because a lot of the learning here is purposeless. We have been learning here to pass exams and whatnot, to have 10 papers at the GCE, all A grades, but without any purpose behind it, no intent. Now, by the time these students come for our summer camp, they know exactly a lot of them have clear visions of what they want to do in life. And it's not just about being robotics engineers, or some of them want to own their farms, knowing that they can excel in agricultural production yield by applying a lot of this concept that they're learning here. We've had students build irrigation systems, and they see how they can better manage water and really understand the amount of water that a plant needs to be able to maximize the production yield. And then we tell them that this leads to a study track like data science and data analysis. You being a data analyst, and you study these things more in depthly, and you really find meaning, passion, purpose behind what you are doing. A lot of adults have gone into careers that they don't like because one math teacher, one physics teacher frustrated them out of what they really wanted to do in life. It takes just that one teacher telling a student that they are stupid, they are dumb, words that I really do not like to hear. People are slow learners. People have different ways of learning. And during the camps, they realize that because we come up with all these other fun ways of learning the things they're doing in the classroom, they know that they become more confident, especially the girls. It gives us so much pride when we see the girls becoming so much confident, finding that, oh, I mean, this is my passion. I love making things grow. If I know that I can apply my maths and my physics to tech, something that I'm enjoying doing, to make things grow. Some of them have what we call the green hand. They like making things grow. So we know they can apply all of that to make a career in this and maybe excel beyond what their peers before have. They are there's this level of inspiration that's in them. There's this level of determination that gets in them. I don't even know how to qualify it, but it's just amazing. If you watch some of our testimonial videos, what the students tell you, we've had our kids here go on national TV to present the project that they're working on very passionately. They tell you the details of all of it within 6 weeks. This is something we're able to accomplish just within 6 weeks. Next camp, they come again, they learn something new. By the time they're in high school, but then by the time they're getting to university, they know exactly where they want to go to. They know exactly what they want to do in life. And that for us is the greatest success story that we could have. Just wanted to share that.
Amazing. Thank you so much for sharing.
And you are doing so much for those students to help guide them to get to where they want and need to be. That's awesome.
Thank you.
Ms. Ivan, I wish to know what criteria do you use to select those who come for that holiday period?
We don't select at all. Everybody that is interested, willing, that has seen, that has attended one of our awareness campaigns and be like, oh, there's something I could do. There's no selection at all. If you're within the age range, well, if you're within the age range, because we're working with kids, as long as you're within the age range and you're interested, we'll give you a chance. So there's no way, we're not doing any selection. We're not trying to filter anybody out of benefiting from that opportunity. So we take students from, currently we've been taking students from 10 years upwards, 10 to 16, 17, yeah. Did you say, what did you say? Oh no, it's free, it's at the university. Mm-hmm.
En fait, je peux parler. J'ai envoyé des images et je voulais les partager. Les commenter un peu. Ce sera plus simple pour moi comme je parle pas très
Dans
bien.
le groupe?
Oui, dans le groupe.
Un instant. So she has some images that she wants to share. So I'm just trying to load them up and then she can talk while we look at the images.
En attendant que vous soyez sur ces images, je rappelle qu'il s'agit d'un projet qui fait le lien entre les STEM, l'agriculture et le changement climatique.
Okay, so her project is making the link between STEM, agriculture, and climate change. So I'm trying to pull up the images now so we can visualize them while she's talking. She'll be talking in French and I'll try to translate as she goes on.
Les activités sont de différentes natures. Il y a des expériences, il y a des ateliers de formation pour les enseignants, des ateliers de formation pour les élèves, notamment pour l'utilisation de l'application Scratch. Il y a des compétitions, beaucoup d'expériences qu'on les aide à reproduire. Donc, c'est un peu ça.
So the activities are quite diverse. They have different workshops, students learning how to grow plants, students learning Scratch, learning coding from using the Scratch interface, and all always suited to implementing STEM in agriculture.
Nous faisons attention à ce que les filles soient très impliquées dans toutes les activités, à ce que les activités se fassent en équipe et à ce que les enfants prennent aussi souvent que possible la parole pour développer un peu leur leadership. Donc, sur la première diapositive, vous avez, ça c'était une compétition Scratch, donc les enfants avaient participé à des ateliers Scratch et après, ils devaient faire un projet sur une petite application sur le changement climatique. Donc, ça, c'était les gagnants qui présentaient ce qu'ils avaient fait.
So the activities are really centered towards bringing girls to working in teams with boys and all, but really having the girls lead. The picture we're looking at here is a competition on Scratch, on the Scratch programming interface for kids. They were given a task to carry out on Scratch, and there was a competition, and these are the winners.
Là, c'est plutôt une compétition sur il fallait faire un exposé sur le changement climatique. Et ça, c'était les gagnants. Ils avaient gagné parce qu'ils avaient eu l'intelligence, comme vous les voyez, ils avaient des ordinateurs en main. Donc, ils avaient eu l'intelligence d'associer leur présentation avec des images sur l'ordinateur, ainsi de suite, alors que les autres étaient venus simplement parler. C'était important pour nous parce que lors de la formation des enseignants, on leur avait justement indiqué que les compétences informatiques font partie des compétences les plus recherchées actuellement. Donc, le fait qu'il y ait un seul enseignant parce que les enseignants coachaient les équipes, le fait que ceux-ci aient intégré cela dans leur présentation avait fait qu'ils soient gagnants.
So here's a competition on climate change. They had to bring up and discuss different thematics and present them. We have the winning team here holding the laptop. They won especially because they included ICTs in their presentation. There was emphasis on using IT tools to really bring together your presentation and present what they have. All the teachers that were coaching the different teams were told that they needed to integrate IT tools into the project, but then only this one team, you see in orange with the laptop, only their teacher emphasized on that, and they brought a laptop with the different things that they were presenting, while the others just brought papers.
Là, c'est les gagnants d'une compétition qui est en lien avec les notions de sciences naturelles, c'est-à-dire germination, et puis d'irrigation goutte à goutte. Donc ça, ce sont les gagnants. Vous voyez, il y a peut-être 4 filles et puis un garçon. Donc à chaque fois, les équipes essayaient de faire, sur toutes les équipes, vous allez constater cela.
So yeah, the image we're looking at is a competition on germination and crop irrigation. Yeah, they implemented a project where they were using water bottles to have this slowly dispensed irrigation mechanism to water plants over a long period of time without needing constant human attendance. You can see they're always trying to have diverse groups, boys with girls, very inclusive groups for all the projects they're working on. Yeah, was a winning team again.
Ça, c'est les gagnants de la compétition sur l'agriculture hydroponique. C'est toujours pour apprendre, en fait, aux enfants à gérer l'eau. Okay. Faire le lien entre l'eau, c'est-à-dire l'irrigation, et puis la germination. Et donc, ça, c'était, l'activité qu'on avait choisie, c'était la culture hydroponique.
So here are the winners on activity for hydroponics agriculture, still trying to create the link between water management and growth of plants. Here is the winning project.
Bon, là, c'était la présentation des drones, parce que la plupart des élèves savent qu'on utilise les drones pour faire des images, des reportages. Très peu, enfin la plupart ne savaient pas parce qu'on avait posé la question qu'on pouvait utiliser les drones en agriculture. Donc on leur avait fait une démonstration.
Okay, so yeah, they're doing a demo with the drone. A lot of students, like a lot of people, just think that we're using drones just for image capture, taking pictures of scenery and events. Yeah, they're trying to lay the emphasis on the fact that drones can be incorporated in agriculture. And then just to add on what she said, drones can be incorporated in agriculture to survey landscape, to survey radiation rate to see how water evaporates in the field, for example. And equally, drones that are, like I earlier said, drones that are equipped with dispensers can be used for irrigation and spraying fertilizer, and they do that a lot more efficiently.
Bon, ça, c'est dans un des établissements parce qu'on a travaillé avec 5 établissements et ça, c'est les gagnants dans un établissement, après le passage dans un établissement.
So they work with different schools, and then this is just the winning team from one of the schools, the secondary schools or high schools they work with.
Ça, c'est l'affiche parce qu'on avait profité de la semaine de la jeunesse pour organiser donc toute une série d'activités. Et ça, c'était l'affiche qu'on avait conçue et qu'on avait placardée dans les établissements. Et la jeune fille en image, c'est un peu celle qu'on souhaite développer comme mascotte du programme.
Okay, so this is just a flyer for your program. Here in Cameroon, we have a youth week, youth engagement week, where a lot of youth-related activities. So they benefited from that exposure that the youth week brings to bring and shed more light and awareness on their program. On the flyer here, we see a girl, which is really what they want to portray as the mascot of the program that she's running.
Ça, c'est toujours l'irrigation goutte à goutte, mais ça permet de voir que, puisque c'était une compétition, il y a des élèves qui ont pris des initiatives et qui ont monté, comme vous voyez, un mécanisme. C'est-à-dire, eux, ils n'ont plus mis directement dans les bassines, ils ont mis des branches, ainsi de suite. Ils ont fait preuve d'un peu plus de créativité.
Okay, so still in the thematic of irrigation management, with slowly dispense irrigation systems. Yes, students took initiative going beyond just having the system confined to a container like we saw earlier, and they actually implemented it on the field. They implemented a demo or prototype kind of setup in the field with the dispense mechanism, as we can see here.
Ça, c'était l'atelier Scratch avec les élèves.
Okay, so this is just Scratch
Quelques
workshop
élèves.
with some students where they are teaching students programming with Scratch.
Je crois que c'est tout. Merci beaucoup.
Okay, that is what she had to share. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for sharing that.
Yeah, amazing to see the work you're doing.
Hello, everyone. Sorry, I'm Juliet from Poma Kodwa. I'm an advocate of STEM. I've been working for several years. Although it's not my field, but I really want to encourage, especially young girls, to engage more in STEM, because I realize, especially in my country, Cameroon, while we were in school, we realized that girls were running away from maths, physics, biology, and so on. So that is the reason why I'm engaging. So if you look at the first picture, you will see the one I sent. I don't know. Okay. One of my projects. I'm talking of one of my projects. The flyer, okay. That is just, it's no, the first one, the flyer. Why is STEM important? So that is just a little demo of what I portray to the students, because I don't really have, since I'm not a science, inclined person. So that is just the information I send. I go to schools and portray. I give why is STEM important. Then I try to explain to them the STEM education and all is all about. So the second picture you're going to see me in a classroom. That is government high school, Obala. So I try to talk to especially girls. I put the girls in front because I really want to talk to them about STEM. You will see me, some of them are holding the flyers. I try to explain to them the importance of STEM, the different advantages in having a career in STEM as a young lady and what it offers to them. So that is it. So if you go to the next picture, you see me in another school here in Yaoundé. That is Master. I think it's at Emana. Yes, that is another school where I share my experiences. I share the advantages of STEM still, tell them the importance of STEM and try to encourage especially girls, because I know most of them are not even, they are ignorant. Most of them are, they are not willing to engage in STEM. So I send them with the flyers back home to share with your parents, their guardians, their parents, and any elder one, maybe those who have gone ahead of them, to explain better to them. So that is just what I do. That's a little I do for in the domain of STEM, because I have so other things I advocate for, but there are times I have particular projects on STEM, and these are just a few. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for sharing.
We understand that with the very limited resources that we have here, initially just creating awareness among students, among parents goes a long way to promoting STEM education. Some people do not even know what it is at all. And then some parents are usually very reluctant to adopt the idea. So just advocating like that, creating awareness, explaining to people what it is and how it's beneficial, it's a wonderful job. Really, thank you. Anyone wants to share? Okay, I think we're done with the sharing over here. So
Okay. Give me a second to pull something up. Well, my PowerPoint pulls up. There we go. Okay. So the next topic that we received, that was sort of a question with STEM practices, is skills that we want to embed in learners. These skills are just my personal opinion. Excuse me, that's not the one I wanted. Give me 1 second. Yeah, you can go all the way back. Oh, hold on. Click out. Sorry. Sorry, give us 1 second. That's what I was looking for. Okay. So again, these are just some of the ones that I personally think are important, and then I can have Perry, Emmanuel, Tiffany, and then any of you that are in there that also want to add to or build on to the ones that I kind of think of. So my first with skills that I want learners to have is critical thinking skills. I think critical thinking comes in handy for the rest of their lives. And if we start that early, then as they get older, that will be something that is more successful for them to accomplish. I do think empathy is an extremely important skill to have with your students. So not only having students that see issues in our world and interact with others, but then also see how this impacts them, and so that they can take that knowledge and then make the world a better place. They need to have leadership skills. They need to be able to communicate and communicate effectively with their peers. I want to make sure I establish problem-solving skills along with their critical thinking. And then last is their team working and or collaboration. So as they get older, or as they're in their schooling, it is important that they know how to work with all different types of people, matter of gender, their preferences. We want to make sure that students know how to work in teams and how to collaborate within their space, and then be able to use that skill to better their self in the future by collaborating with other people and hearing what they find as important, or using their knowledge and skill set from other people to then build their knowledge and skill set. So then I was going to allow Perry or Tiffany or Emmanuel, if you want to add to or think of skills you want to embed into your learners, so we can share that as well.
I'll let Perry go and then I'll go after.
She's letting me go first.
Oh, okay. I would just add one more. The one more I would like to add is perseverance. It's just the ability to keep trying when things get difficult, and to keep trying after we fail.
One of the things I would say is most important is for students to, and I think some of it Emmanuel covered, is for students to really start to see themselves as individuals that can engage and apply the science. I think when we talk about collaborative learning and students connecting with each other, being able to teach what they know, watching their teachers and their schools see them apply it. And when students can explain to you what they've done hands-on, has been really important and successful for us. And so leadership skills, communication skills, team building skills, and critical thinking skills are all aspects of what I see happening in STARBASE.
Emmanuel, did you have any that you wanted to share that you think is important to embed with your students?
Yeah, I think most of the skills covered here are really all what we usually want to have the learners learn, get. But then the only thing that I'll add there is creativity. One of those very critical skills that I always want learners to gain from our sessions is creativity. That's why we usually just show them what they can start with and then let their minds run free. You will be amazed by what comes out of the mind of a 10-year-old, 12-year-old kid. So aside from leadership, team work, critical thinking, problem solving, there's an aspect of creativity. And equally for them to be visionaries, for them to consider whatever they're doing now, whatever they're doing here at this particular moment, whatever they're learning right now could be applied to so much more. They are forced to be reckoned with. They can create a tremendous impact in the world. They just have to dare. So once they equip themselves with the knowledge, all they are left with is there. The only thing that could limit them is how creative they are. There are so many problems that we have in Africa. A lot of them are barely solved. If we want those problems to be solved, we have to rely on these kids they are tomorrow's problem solver, and we empower them today to be just that. But they need the element of creativity. They need to let their mind run free. Our educational system tends to cage students' mind and their reasoning a lot. And what we do here is break those chains and shackles or that boxing. You think out of the box, dare be free thinkers. So that's just what I have to add.
Love the concept of being a free thinker.
I wish to add that in what I mostly emphasize on, in addition to these skills, I've taken note that most of the students, they lack self-confidence. So I always struggle to instill that in them, because without the self-confidence, the students, they will be unable to even talk. Communication actually starts from the self-confidence. And at times I always ask if the students, people always hush them down from talking. Because when you ask a student a question, even when the student can actually do it, perform something, you find them, they have difficulties communicating, and then in the presence of others. So why building in the students these skills, you equally have to build them to develop self-confidence. And then with self-confidence, they'll be able to do anything. They know that they appreciate them in what they're doing. So that's just what I wanted to add.
When I have students answer questions, that is the number one thing I tell them to do, is tell me that with confidence. Like, say it confidently. And I want them to believe it when they say it, that they are right. And I think that is so important, to make sure your students know that they can be confident in their learning.
Thank you. I just wanted to add to what a prof said, that apart from building confidence and critical thinking, creativity, leadership, it is also needed for the students to build their credibility thinking, their credibility skills, and accountability, because they have to be accountable for everything that they do during their process. If you make them to know that, also they tend to work more harder, they tend to think more critically, they tend to give out the best that they can give. So it's just about also including credibility and accountability to the skills and to what they have to achieve. Thank you.
Thank you.
That's it for sharing what people want their students to learn from our side here.
Okay, sounds good. Sorry. So the next thing, excuse me. Oh yeah, thank you. Sorry, I'm missing a slide in the middle of all this. Let me see if I can find it. Okay. The other topic that came up was the idea of contextualizing STEM for students. Again, this was very brief, and I would love to hear everyone else's thoughts on how we do this with our students. But my number one thing is, before we can contextualize STEM for students, we need to make sure we understand it ourselves. and what STEM means. And I do kind of build into that in my next couple of slides. Also, having students understand the importance of STEM is important for them to contextualize it, and then how we really need it to move forward as a society. And so when students see more of a buy-in for what STEM is and why we need science, technology, and engineering in our world, it will start the process for them to understand why. It is also important to use different techniques and strategies to continue to engage your learners. So when you give them different ways to understand and contextualize STEM, it kind of works as a building block for them to understand more why this is important. And then again, as you all have talked about with your students, it's finding ways to connect them to their day-to-day lives with the topics you're teaching. We want to give them real world examples, real world problems, so that when they are working at them, they are understanding the why that they are doing it and how these problem-based learnings or project-based learning activities connect with the world that they are currently living in and growing up to be a part of. So does anyone like to add how they like to contextualize STEM for their students? Those were just some broad thinkings that I had to come up quickly.
One thing I would add is when we're looking at history, we've mentioned the fact that students need to see themselves as engineers. They need to see themselves as scientists. So having people that look like them and talk like them and come from the places they come, having that representation in our STEM classrooms really contextualizes STEM in a powerful way. And when we bring them into the lessons, so for example, who developed the GPS, the global positioning systems? Who is creating sine and cosine? How are we using it in our real world? When we make those brief connections, students can find a lot more value in what we are doing and see themselves as the people who are developing them.
Anyone wants to add on how they contextualize STEM for your learners? Okay, I think I'll add on that. Let me share my screen here. So yesterday we had one of the participants brief us on project-based approach to learning. So that is one of the very, or would I say easy ways, or really fundamental ways in which we can conceptualize STEM learning for our kids here. Let me share my screen. So addressing conceptualization via addressing contextualization via project-based learning. So we can look at how project-based learning can be adapted. We can look at how project-based learning can be adapted to various or different contexts based on where we are and what we are trying to push through. So for example, our settings here are usually the rural and urban, and even in an urban settings, our resources are limited. So how are you able to take a project that can be done at STARBASE and then adapt it to your context? I'll leverage on what Madame Yobol was talking about with her AgriSTEM project on having kids learn irrigation techniques and all that. So if we take that case, for example, in an urban setting with the very basic resources that we have, because what we usually tend to find difficult with contextualizing is the fact that we lack the resources that kids in USA have. We don't have 3D printers, we don't have fancy robots, we don't have spinning wheel robots and all that. so we cannot get STEM learning through. If I take that very simple, just having kids build an irrigation system to solve a problem in their immediate surrounding. So always try to bring out that immediate surrounding. This is something around you. It's a problem right beside you. You're trying to solve. You're not in Cameroon. You're trying to solve a problem in America. You're in Cameroon in your little village trying to solve a problem in your little village. Usually even in your backyard. You have your parents or your mom or your grandmom struggling to grow her vegetables. How do you solve that problem? Really bring things down to earth. Let it be something they immediately relate with. Do not go for the fancy experiments or the fancy projects. Bring it down to something the students immediately relate to. On the slide here, let me turn off the light so you can see it a bit clearer. You have irrigation system, the drop by drop irrigation system Madame Yobo was talking about. Yeah, it's done with recycled bottles of Supermon water that we know and have. The way this drip irrigation system is done, I'll try to zoom in. A lot of things on the screen here. Okay, you can see this drip irrigation system here is the way the water is regulated is with the IV pipe. It's a repurposed IV pipe. You know, when we have all been sick here. Unfortunately, we've all been sick, or for those that are fortunate to not have been sick. But we do know what an IV pipe looks like. We know what the nurse usually comes and push to regulate how fast the IV is flowing in you. These are things that all of us know, things that we've all touched and felt. This is you having people that have used those things. These are Supermon bottles. I'm using Supermon here because it's a brand of water we're all familiar with. Still contextualizing, bringing things down to earth. It could be any bottle, but I'm using Supermon specifically here. Here you can see that we could have the drip bottle itself entirely used for that, or we could have the Supermon water bottles still connected with the drip pipe with that regulator there. With that, students are able to determine how what the water flow rate is. They will map it on papers. They will have graphs, so they will see that if I push this button, they have this roller on those IV. If I push this to this specific place, it takes this amount of time for this quantity of water to irrigate this plant in that long. They have an XY graph, they plot it, and they keep putting the data until they're able to determine the exact position for that roller knob to be placed for water to be dispensed, say, for a week, a month. This is a simple solution to people that travel and want their plants to be irrigated all the time. Or you have your farm and you're leaving, maybe you're going to visit your parents and you want to come back to see your huckleberries still doing just fine. This is how that project is implemented. Simply, you have things that can be found in our immediate surroundings. We have a problem that we are all very familiar with. And then we have just our minds and our creativity to be led to roam free. And then there's a lot of recycling here. Saving the planet, saving the environment, fighting climate change. Always bring out all those factors. They are solving the problem at a grander scale. If I move on, now we have something more, a little bit more intimidating. But this was still done by our camp, our students here in the camp. This was done by my students in my IoT and embedded system course at university level. But this same system was done by secondary school students during the camp. Now we are no longer using the drip irrigation. We're no longer repurposing the IV strip. Here we're making use of a smart system. We're using an Arduino. We have gone a level higher for people that could afford this resource or that could have access to this. We've gone a scale higher. This will easily be implemented in an urban setting with maybe a program that has more resources. That's a little bit more resources, but we're still fighting the same problem of water management here, but just a notch higher. Yeah, we have an Arduino. We have a humidity sensor that's in the soil that can sense how dry the soil is and immediately deploy water that is connected to a motor, and the system is automatic. Now, when we're implementing this system with our students here, there's a specific kind of pump that is supposed to be immersed in water and pump that water. We didn't have an immersive pump. We had a pump that had to be put out of the container of water. The student had to, and I was like, figure this out, make this pump work. This is all what we can afford. We don't have a fancy pump that we can immerse in water that is waterproof. We have this one. And they were able to come up with a very interesting contraption. I don't have the image here, but they were able to come up with a very interesting contraption where that pump that is not immersive still pushes air. So they were able to play on water pressure, send a pipe into a bottle, have another pipe come out of that bottle and have that bottle tight. So the pump pumps in air, not water. It's pumping air into a tight sealed container, and then it makes the water level to rise and come out of the other way. Still using what we can have, not complaining, being able to do with them what we had there. It's still a lot more than most people have. Some people don't have access to Arduinos and even the rudimentary pump that we have, but it wasn't even the perfect tool or technology for the setting, but we're able to use that. A very important part of understanding conceptualization is understanding the T in STEM, understanding the technology aspect of STEM. That is something that people fail to connect or realize. What is that technology really in STEM? We know the science, we know the maths, we know the engineering, but there tends to be a lot of blurred lines around what the T stands for. Technology here is either tools you are using to make something possible, and technology can equally be the result of you making something possible. You solving a problem is creating technology. You trying to solve a problem is using technology. So we usually use technology in pushing STEM learning, conceptualizing things. And at the end of the day, once we're done, when the student is done creating something, a prototype, they've created a technology. And remember that technology is just any innovation that helps you do something. It doesn't have to be a computer. It doesn't have to be a robot arm. Technology is as rudimentary as a screwdriver or a hammer. Any tool that you're able to use to carry on an activity is technology. So understanding that technology aspect and not limiting it to the fancy things, to the expensive equipment and all that, knowing that it is either the rudimentary things you have there or what you have created, because the entire purpose of an activity could be to create a technology that could be used to do something else. The irrigation system becomes a technology, even be it with a smart Arduino board or with the drip system, it becomes technology. So once you understand what technology is, you understand how you can conceptualize a lot of things. Technology, a lot of times today, stands for coding. Coding has been overwhelmingly, I'm talking about computer programming, just writing code. Computer programming has been overwhelmingly considered as technology in STEM today, because having kids code, be it on Scratch or writing Python script, gives them problem-solving abilities, critical thinking abilities, and it helps to link a lot the bridge between maths and engineering, or maths and science. I take back the drone example I was telling you about. The drone here is a technology we are using. And then via that drone, we are feeding it code with maths, calculations and all that for it to do its engineer design purpose. So understanding what technology is, what technology you have available goes a long way to bringing STEM down to the realities that you are facing wherever you are and still having your kids learn something. What I have next year is a hydroponics irrigation system. I like to talk a lot about agriculture because that's one of our biggest problems in Africa. We think that we are doing agriculture, but we are just really playing now. So really empowering kids towards pursuing careers in agriculture, be it being a data scientist or a data analyst or an IoT engineer in agriculture, goes a long way to promoting our economic growth as a country, which is really what we are trying to do and we want to inspire these students. So here we have contextualization when it comes to prototyping. On the left there, we have computer-aided design for a vertical hydroponic system. If you know what hydroponics is, it's basically trying to minimize our usage on soil and land by making agriculture more efficient. So turn off the light. So on the left there, we have one that was generated with computer-aided design with a software like Tinkercad. It's a dismantleable system. That's what's interesting about it. It can easily be dismantled. You can see it's made in blocks. Really made in blocks because a 3D printer can really print a very defined size, depending on how big the 3D printer is. And it's equally in blocks because it makes it easy to be dismantled and move around with it. And it's really optimized for water to flow through this vertical column and all that. But then on the right-hand side, we're still implementing the same vertical hydroponic system, and we're using a PVC pipe. We all know this PVC pipe, right? We've all seen this is a very familiar PVC pipe here in Cameroon, in Africa, in Cameroon specifically. This is what we know as PVC pipe. Here, the holes for the different plants have just been pushed in with hot iron rods. We've heated an iron rod, and we've done the same holes in that pipe that were 3D printed in the other one, making do with what we have in our immediate surroundings. Very important when it comes to trying to contextualize things to the African reality. Because at the end of the day, we want them to solve the problems in Africa here with the resources we have in Africa here. So that's just what I wanted to add. Thank you.
Yeah, great examples. Thank you.
Does anyone else have anything they would like to share about contextualizing STEM with their students?
Alors, j'ai partagé dans dans le groupe WhatsApp quelques images de formation à l'extrême nord, notamment concernant la robotique et en fait l'initiation à la robotique pour les élèves du secondaire. On connaît le contexte de l'extrême nord où les réalités d'Internet sont en fait dans des zones rurales. Donc là, c'était Poli et Bibemi, où la connexion, l'Internet, la technologie n'est pas facile d'accès.
So here on the screen, we have images of training sessions that he's had in the extreme north part, the far north part of the country, where access to technology is even more limited. My laptop was powered down, unfortunately.
OK. Alors, il fallait réfléchir sur comment faire comprendre à ces enfants l'adéquation de leurs études théoriques, notamment en mathématiques. Donc, prendre des concepts théoriques de mathématiques et leur mettre dans des concepts, dans un contexte de pratique, notamment en utilisant Scratch. Donc, nous avons parcouru certaines notions, notamment la distance en faisant bouger un élément d'un point à un autre, et ensuite, l'élément devrait calculer la distance. Et bien après, nous avons pu construire des angles, leur faire comprendre la notion de ce que c'est qu'un angle en faisant des angles droits, des angles aigus et bien d'autres, quoi.
So the training really consisted on bridging the gap between maths, then the technology that they use, which here was coding, having kids code on Scratch for them to implement maths concept like trigonometry, looking at various angles, how objects can move in various directions, how distances can be calculated on how fast or how far object is moving. So they were using technology here, robots, and the Scratch programming language for students to understand some concepts in mathematics.
OK. Donc, ayant fait distance angle, nous avons pu également aborder les notions de figures géométriques, notamment le triangle, le rectangle. Et pour ceux qui pouvaient, on a fait un cercle, quoi. Plus loin, nous avons pu leur montrer comment on pouvait réaliser un compteur numérique, des concepts électroniques. Et le wow dans toute cette histoire, c'est que à la fin nous avons en fait nourri une passion aux enfants, à savoir, en fait, la plupart voulaient déjà d'abord compétir parce que à la fin de la formation, nous avions un concours. La plupart voulaient concourir. Et à côté de ça, ils avaient pour ambition de réellement pousser sur la robotique et devenir plus tard des ingénieurs, en fait. Donc, c'est un peu ça notre expérience.
So beyond doing talking about concepts of trigonometry in maths with robotics, with robots really demonstrating and all, they went into looking at geometry concepts, how they could model different figures, triangles, circles, and other shapes. So the end game here was really to inspire the students. After the training, a lot of them were inspired to pursue careers in engineering because they were able to conceptualize a lot of what they learned with the hands-on training that were dispensed.
OK. En adéquation également, en phase avec les notions d'égalité, genre, nous n'avons pas vraiment diversifié. Nous avons en fait diversifié la salle de classe. Notamment, nous avions des garçons et des filles. Il est vrai, l'écart, le gap le gap se faisait ressentir sur le fait que les filles étaient très peu réceptives sur les notions de mathématiques, mais avec l'encouragement et l'accompagnement de leurs camarades garçons, elles arrivaient à comprendre. Merci.
And beyond that, they try to be very inclusive with the training, really trying to bring girls, work with the boys, though it was really difficult having the girls work because we're talking about the far north of the country here, where we have the Islamic community, where the culture there is even, well, I say a bit more strict on restraining girls from accessing education or even venturing fields, especially STEM fields. They usually limit how much education they can get, and they won't even want to have them get into STEM specific education fields. So that was very challenging for them, but they were able to make some impact and somehow bridge the gap there with the training. Thank you. Okay, where's the mic?
Okay, thank you. Yes, I still want to talk about contextualization in project learning. So I take, for example, at times when I have a lesson with the junior secondary school, I'm teaching about composition of air. Then now, because when we just teach and you mention the various parts or the composition, and now you go and you talk of part active and inactive air, they just have the theory, but they don't understand. But now to show that another part of air is really the active part of air, you just need a simple project. And what project do? I just need a transparent container like this one in front of me, then and a candle. You light a candle, you place inside the container, or you place it on the table, and then you have a one that is a little bit bigger, then you put water inside, and then you place the candle inside and you cover it with another transparent container, and you ask all of them to observe.
and they should take the level of the water. You measure the level of the water with them, and you ask them to observe. After some time, the candle goes off. And then you ask them, yes, just continue to observe. They see the level of the water has risen. And they say, okay, what do you think must have happened? They start giving their suggestion. And when you say that, yes, when the active part of A is finished, and that is the active part which I say support conversion, which is the same that we use in breathing. When it is finished, what happened? The water rises. And the water rises to occupy the volume that was occupied by that active part of A. You see how inquisitive they are. Then now, for the to calculate, I still ask them, okay, let's measure now the rise again in the volume of water. We measure it, and then we do the calculation, and you see everybody gets it. And they are very excited. The interest is aroused, and the class is very, very participatory. So those are very simple projects that we contextualize our lessons, and you see how happy, and even the slow learners, they get home, they try it, and they are eager to do many of those, and they understand the lesson perfectly. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else wants to share? Okay.
Je voulais rappeler que dans le cas du projet AgriSTEM pour la contextualisation, nous avons travaillé à essayer de faire le lien entre différentes notions, que ce soit en mathématiques, en sciences, enfin les STEM, faire le lien entre ces notions et l'agriculture. Donc, c'est ça qui a fait l'objet du manuel que j'ai fait circuler hier pour que les enseignants aient matière à faire le rapprochement entre la notion qu'ils enseignent à l'école et l'environnement immédiat de leurs apprenants, cet environnement immédiat étant essentiellement marqué par les activités agricoles.
Okay, so she wants to reiterate that via her AgriSTEM project, they come up with a manual which is geared towards teachers, for teachers to understand how different subject, maths, physics, chemistry, and all that are linked to their immediate environment and to agriculture in particular. So they have this manual because like we said earlier, teachers have to understand the STEM, understand where it applies for them to be able to conceptualize, to contextualize it for their students. Any other contribution? Yes.
I just wish to add that I used to run a club in school called the Science Club, that mostly we recruit students from Form 1 and 2 before they get to Form 3, such that most of these students in these junior classes, the Science Club, we mostly carry out STEM projects in the club, such that the students would develop an interest in engaging into the science field. Because by Form 3, majority of them are already making up their minds that they would do the arts. So when you engage the children at that age, all of them, especially girls, because I mostly encourage the girls, when you engage them in that Form 1 and 2, you find that they develop an interest in the sciences before they get to Form 4, because in Form 4, in their own school system, by Form 4, you are already engaged into the sciences or arts. So that's how I contextualize the STEM in the school system. So most of the students that you find us working with them in the science clubs, we call them science club, are those that are beginners. By the time they are now in the sciences, we start dealing them or working with them in such a way that they start orientating themselves into different fields now, the science fields. But you first of all motivate them, make them arouse their curiosity with the small projects that they get involved in the science club.
and then their interest is developed in that domain. And equally, I've encouraged colleagues in the different schools that they can actually engage in the similar activities in order to help these students. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, please, I have a question. Sorry, it's not because seeing that time is going, I have a question that we should be clarified. I have two questions actually. Unfortunately, Mr. Ngang is not here. My question would have been directed to him, but I believe that we can still address it. Yesterday, he mentioned the fact that STEM is an approach, and STEM as an approach is different from STEM promoting the field of science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. I wish to ask this because leaving this place, we are going to advocate for STEM, and I wish to know, does it mean we are encouraging all our siblings, everybody to pursue this direction, or those who are aspiring to pursue arts and some of these other domains, they will not be part of our advocacy? That's why I'm asking about the STEM as field and the STEM as a approach in education. That's my first question. I don't know whether I should take the second one too. Yeah, the second one is about somebody like me. We work mostly with, as a foundation, we have access to parents. So I also wish to find out what can be our take-home message as we are going now to maybe tell them about this new approach of education. What can our parents, what's their own part to play in this, especially at the basic level of education? What can we be telling them? Thank you.
Please, I would like to answer the question that she asked. If you look at the STEM, what Ms. Ngang Sylvester said, the STEM approach, when we talk of this, of STEM, it is an approach to teaching and learning. Now, being an approach to teaching and learning, it doesn't prevent the students who are going to engage in the arts from participating, or the teachers teaching the arts not to use the approach. When I always talk of the STEM approach to teaching, I mean you identify, when you look at the science, technology, engineering, maths, in all the lessons that you are teaching, like I always say, in all the lessons you are teaching, you identify the science in that lesson. And then the technology, which means you select appropriate technology that you have to use when you are demonstrating that lesson. And then if there is a piece of engineering that they'll have to develop, maybe a project based on that. Because if you look at, let's take the case of English language. If you are teaching a lesson in English, you can actually use the STEM approach, because most of the lessons in English language that we have our teachers teach today, they're using, let me take a case of a composition that are talking about the environment, management of waste. You actually see that you as the teacher, when you do your research, you can actually engage the learners using the STEM approach, because when you ask them to go, what type of waste, the students will actually isolate the waste. And then you come back. The waste can be organic waste that is going to decompose, this one, this one, this one. When you do that, you are able, though you are teaching the arts or language, you are able to use the STEM approach, which is, like I always call it, project-based, in teaching the learners. So I take STEM as an approach in teaching, not just maybe orientating the students to the field of science, technology, engineering. So when we talk of it being an approach to teaching, we mean that you help learners actually engage practically in what you are teaching them. I don't know if I've answered the question. And then the take-home message that I would like that you as a foundation, you take to parents, it is all what we have been discussing here, contextualization. And then you try to encourage parents, though, because your question, this question is like linking it to the field of science, technology, engineering, mathematics. Yeah, the take-home message is that the parents, they should encourage their children, first of all, to develop an interest in the fields of science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. That's one thing that I would say, because we can actually develop without applying STEM. That's what I'm going to say. Thank you.
Okay, someone just hold on.
Okay, it's away from what she said. I was just trying to bring up my contribution. In my organization, I just go to Vitality for Health. We focus more on fighting hidden hunger by bringing micronutrient education to people. Our target population is children below 5 years, pregnant women, and the elderly, to prevent non-communicable diseases and to prevent them from getting to malnutrition. So we're actually doing a project where we are involving every community, children and the elderly, in fact, every home and our schools. We started with 2 schools in Bamenda already, where we say nutrition for all. There we assist every home get their waste, the plastics, tires, buckets. You bring it together, you put your manure inside. It feels that at home, every waste you gather, you don't dispose it. You use it as a manure and you produce the food yourself. I was very happy with the irrigation method that STEM mom, she said, Sandy Agric said behind here, because it's actually similar to exactly what we are doing back there at Bamenda, and it's very, very good because it makes, when they grow it themselves, they have the organic foods and it's available and it's accessible, and they use everything around them so that they realize that at home you no longer have waste. But your bucket is broken, you turn into a garden. Your tire doesn't go, you turn into a garden. Your pipes, you turn into a garden. So it's very interesting and everyone is taking interest in it. And we allow every household, you can give us your children, the whole household can be involved. And 2 schools in Bamenda took interest and we started up with them, which each day introduces to them. We actually do that during the summer holidays and schools, but it's really something good because it fights climate change and it brings nutrition to your doorsteps because they grow what they want and it's available and it's also accessible. So that's the contribution we make in our community. And I've really learned that we're doing STEM indirectly because we're bringing the science, the technology, engineering, and the mathematics, calculating how many containers you need, what do you need to put inside of whatever, what you want to get the quantity that I want based on the household and the compounds or the community based on how they find themselves group. And bet it's a really interesting activity.
J'aimerais donner un élément de réponse, du moins mon point de vue sur les questions que ma camarade a posées tout à l'heure quand elle parlait de qu'est-ce qu'elles vont dire aux parents et quand elle faisait allusion au STEM approche, au STEM comme une approche et non comme la science.
So she wants to give her point of view on what question that was earlier asked on the take-home message to parents or for parents, and equally the approach to STEM as a study track and as a career track.
Alors, je voudrais me représenter. Je suis présidente d'une association Science en Rose qui encourage les filles à embrasser des carrières scientifiques. Et pour qu'on comprenne mieux, je suis journaliste, et pour qu'on comprenne mieux pourquoi une journaliste fait de l'advocacy pour les STEM, j'ai un background scientifique et je fais de l'advocacy aujourd'hui un peu par frustration parce que justement, il y a beaucoup de choses qui m'ont manqué, ce qui a fait que moi qui aimais beaucoup les sciences dans mon enseignement secondaire, je n'ai pas poussé dans l'enseignement supérieur et je me suis trouvée à faire une autre carrière plutôt que celle que je voulais faire. Je voulais faire une carrière de médecin. À mon époque, quand on faisait les sciences, maths ou bien les séries CO de séries, c'était pour être médecin, très peu pour être ingénieur, ce n'était pas encore trop ça, mais c'était pour être médecin ou bien faire le concours de Polytech. Mais mon père voulait que je sois un comptable et moi, je voulais être médecin. Malheureusement, quand on arrive après le bac, il n'y a plus de concours au Cameroun, tout est fermé. Je suis de la génération sacrifiée et c'est comme ça que je me retrouve à dévier. J'étais donc frustrée parce que mon amour pour la science a été éteint en moi. J'ai reproduit ça dans mes enfants, en les encourageant à faire la science et ils ont excellé dans la science, mais avec beaucoup de difficultés. C'est pour ça qu'au sorti de ce séminaire, personnellement, je suis très, très satisfaite. J'ai été très, très attentive pendant tous ces jours. J'étais d'abord frustrée en me disant que mais on parle seulement aux enseignants et on oublie les advocates comme nous. Qu'est-ce que nous allons dire? Mais j'ai été très, très satisfaite, surtout quand on parle de STEM en tant qu'approche. Je veux parler du sous-système francophone. On donne beaucoup de sujets, beaucoup de matières à l'enfant à étudier, la géographie, l'histoire, l'anglais, le français, les mathématiques et ainsi de suite. Mais on n'a jamais appris à un enfant, par exemple, qui va faire les sciences. On lui apprend, par exemple, l'anglais, mais on ne lui apprend pas le langage scientifique en anglais ou le langage de la comptabilité en anglais. On lui apprend à dire « Good morning, how are you? I'm fine, sir ». On lui apprend en français « Bonjour, comment tu vas conjuguer les verbes », mais on ne lui apprend pas le langage scientifique. Ce qui fait que l'enfant qui va partir vers les sciences après sera perdu. Ma fille, par exemple, qui faisait physique, quand moi, parce que j'étais instruite, je l'ai mis, quand elle est arrivée à l'université, je lui ai dit, demandé de faire les cours d'anglais. Elle a dit que non, elle ne veut pas faire les cours d'anglais. Mais quand elle est arrivée au niveau des licences, elle était butée. Elle a commencé à dire que wow, je vais faire comment? Parce que tous les documents scientifiques sont en anglais. Et maintenant, elle a commencé.
So to give some background, I just want to translate as she's going. So to give some background on the contribution she's trying to make, she's a journalist and she has a foundation, a nonprofit called Girls in Pink. She, as a journalist, the reason why she's founder of this nonprofit Girls in Pink to advocate for more girls in STEM is because she initially, at the level of high school, studied science. So she had that scientific background at the level of high school. She wanted to do medicine. She wanted to become a medical doctor. But because of the situation of the country and everything, it takes a written exam to get into medical school. So for some reason, she wasn't able to have that written exam. So she deviated from her intended career track. She deviated a lot from that, and that gave her a lot of frustration. All through her life with her children, she has been trying to have them pursue careers in STEM, to not be faced with the same kind of frustration that she has. So she's been encouraging her students to pursue career tracks in STEM. And that was equally the reason why she funded her non-profit.
Mais le problème, c'est qu'on ne leur enseigne pas. On leur donne beaucoup de sujets, mais on ne leur enseigne pas, par exemple, le STEM approche. Donc, elle va faire les physiques, mais en anglais, par exemple, à l'école, on lui apprend « I am Mr. Fru. Good morning, sir ». On ne lui apprend pas comment on appelle un tube à essai. Le langage scientifique, on ne leur apprend pas. Il n'y a pas de STEM approach.
And then even in the educational system, yeah, there's really no STEM approach to learning.
Dans le système francophone,
yeah,
oui.
especially in the francophone system, you know, Cameroon is bilingual. So we have the French system and we have the English system. We have the French-speaking people and the English-speaking people. The crowd we have here today is mostly made up of English-speaking citizens of the country. That is where there's more promotion of STEM education. That is where there's more awareness with STEM. In the French subsystem of education here, STEM is talked about very little. In general, science and maths and engineering is not promoted very well. Just even in teaching English language, it does not play emphasis on scientific language, how to call various scientific components and various scientific tools and all that. So there's really that frustration that comes with her backstory and why she's advocating for a lot of STEM today.
Donc, en tant qu'advocate, j'ai beaucoup appris ici, surtout mon but sera davantage d'encourager à l'approche thème. Par exemple, quand on apprend l'anglais aux enfants dans le secondaire, leur apprendre l'anglais scientifique, par exemple, pour les scientifiques, l'enfant ne doit pas arriver à l'université en master avant d'apprendre comment on appelle un tube à essai en anglais. Il faut avoir le STEM approche, même dans l'enseignement de l'anglais. C'est très, très important. Donc, je vais continuer à faire de l'advocacy dans ce sens-là. En tant qu'approche, c'est très, très important et très, très intéressant. Et maintenant, le langage aux parents, ce qu'on peut dire aux parents, c'est parce que les parents sont les premiers prescripteurs de filières pour les enfants. Quand ils veulent orienter les enfants, ils veulent que les enfants fassent des séries qui vont leur apporter une carrière et rapidement apporter de l'argent à la maison. Même pas forcément parce qu'est-ce que l'enfant va réaliser. Non, tu vas travailler, avoir un salaire et puis tu ne vas plus dépendre de moi. Il faut encourager les parents. Alors, en leur enseignant encore à quoi ça sert les carrières scientifiques, surtout sur le project-based approach, ça va contribuer beaucoup au développement du pays, en même temps à l'épanouissement de son enfant. Et derrière chaque projet qu'on mène, on gagne forcément de l'argent. Et j'ai l'idée de ma fille qui me disait, qui dit quand on fait l'advocacy ensemble, que quelqu'un qui pousse dans les sciences, elle gagne en peu de temps l'argent que quelqu'un qui va aller travailler au bureau va gagner en beaucoup de temps. Et en même temps, elle apporte des solutions aux problèmes. Donc, je suis vraiment satisfaite par ce workshop où j'ai beaucoup appris sur le STEM approche. Et davantage, il faut encourager vraiment les enseignants, surtout du sous-système francophone, à enseigner, à avoir ce STEM approche dans tout ce qu'ils enseignent. L'enfant ne va pas arriver en master ou en doctorat avant d'apprendre, par exemple, avant ce STEM approche-là. Donc, dans toutes les matières, on doit avoir vraiment ce STEM approche. Merci beaucoup.
Okay, and she lays particular emphasis on the fact that this workshop has empowered her. She has learned more about the STEM approach to education, about how we're using project-based learning, instruction-based learning and inquiry. So all of this has empowered her advocacy journey. She was initially frustrated that the workshop was geared towards training trainers for STEM, but she has grabbed a lot of concepts that will empower her advocacy journey. The fact that in the French substitute education, students cannot even tell what a test tube is, or they don't even have the wordings for a test tube. Most students go through that system education without knowing what to call a test tube. So it stems going from there, she will be able to empower parents more. She can bring out the advantages, what parents can see, the future they can see for their kids in STEM education, how they can solve problems, make money from themselves, while at the same time contributing to the entire economic growth of the country. So she's very thankful for this opportunity, participating in this workshop and learning all these things. Sorry?
I want to give some clarification, please.
Okay.
It's important. Alors, merci, madame, pour votre contribution. Nous apprécions énormément votre engagement dans le STEM, mais il est important de clarifier ici en tant qu'enseignant dans le système, le sous-système francophone, comme vous le dites, que ce que vous dites, c'est vrai. À une époque, c'était ça, mais depuis pratiquement 2 à 3 ans, c'est plus ça. L'approche a changé. On est passé d'une approche par objectif à une approche par compétence. Je l'ai relevé encore avant-hier en disant que le STEM rejoint très rapidement l'approche par compétence où on fait l'adéquation entre d'ailleurs les matières, on montre à l'enfant pourquoi il fait telle matière. Par exemple, l'informatique, on va lui dire rapidement pourquoi les mathématiques, pourquoi la physique, et on va lui dire également pourquoi il fait l'informatique. Donc, l'approche par compétence vient répondre à la question des STEM au Cameroun. Donc, c'est pour nous positionner, nous en tant qu'éducateurs, de véritablement nous engager dans le STEM parce que c'est l'avenir pour les futurs ingénieurs au Cameroun. Merci.
Okay, so the participant that just spoke is a teacher, so he was coming to shed some more light on what the previous participant said about the lack of STEM education approach in the Francophone substance of education. So he says that things have basically been changing in the recent years. Him as a teacher on the forefront, on the front lines of STEM education, he has seen a lot of change. There's been the integration of that STEM approach of learning into the things now. Yes, another intervention.
Okay, thank we have talked about since day one, we have been talking about STEM approach in schools, but there's one thing that we did not make mention of. For those at the level of the organization, I think we also have to be looking at how to involve the women or the girls who are working, that is girls who do this, might be designing, bike riders or whatever, the community into the STEM approach. Because I would take, for example, after that's 2016 when the crisis started, I had to move to Yaoundé, so in search of greener pastures, and I had nothing doing. So I had to start designing with beads, designing of beads, of jewelries, chains and bags using beads. Now the way forward for me was rather enrolling in a designing school where I could rather further my studies on designing as a whole. But my mentor would not allow that. So she said, the technology is the booming field of this day, so you have to get into technology. I didn't see it that I could use technology to improve on my designs until when I had to study turtle stitch. That is when I understood that technology could be embedded also in just small designs and art and craft. You know, we don't know that we focus more on the kids, but meanwhile, even the mothers back that are the adults. Okay, sorry. And yes, business people and traders, and even the girls, those in the salon, the hairdressers, the fashion designers, we haven't talked about them because they need to take the STEM approach. You know, conceiving just a dress, it needs you to think about a design. You cannot just start producing the design, but might be producing it on a paper. And after producing on a paper, maybe you get to produce more design on a computer and what have you. We look at Adidas. Let us use marks like Adidas. Their conception of their design did not just come from, from anywhere. Even the Puma, the Visage, the Chanel, Louis Vuitton, and all of them. They started just with the conception. Yes, they had it in their mind. Now they put it down, and now we produce something out of that. So we have also to get back to the traders, to the fashion designers, and all those using those local methods to produce things that are valuable unto us. And then I wanted to contribute to the fact that you said mothers are the role of parents in encouraging their children in STEM education. I think minus the fact that we need to teach in school, just for the students, we also have to talk with maybe the school authorities. Okay, during their PTA meetings, can we come and share the importance of STEM education with the parents? Because if we not share it with the parents, you tell a child that go and tell your mother that this is like this, or even go to explain it using the flyer. The mother will not want to listen, or the mother will not even believe the child. So it is also necessary for us that we can also talk with our school heads, with the administrations. We go to the school when they have PTA meetings, during graduations. We see small gatherings, women gatherings, taxi men gatherings, and all these, we create unions around, and we talk to them about the importance of them, so that when their children come back home presenting STEM to them, now it becomes very easy for them to engage in the process. Thank you.
Thank you very much. That was very insightful. Okay, I think the question was answered thoroughly by all the participants. Okay. In case Perry or Kiana or Tiffany, you have something to add on that question, answer?
Yeah, I think that was answered really well.
Yeah, no, I think everyone did a really good job answering those questions.
Awesome. So I think we can proceed.
I only have about one more thing left to kind of talk about, and I think it kind of leads to what we've been talking about right now, which is how do we as educators in this room kind of spread that knowledge, our passion that we have for STEM education, STEM approach, and how these skills can really help our students and our learners to better themselves in the future. And so my last little tidbit that I have, let me see if I can get down there, is wait for my thing to load, is we talked about contextualizing STEM, but I want to talk about how do we as educators conceptualize STEM within ourselves. So I think that if educators aren't as confident in teaching STEM topics, we can guide them into doing that with their own inquiry-based learning on what they think STEM is. And so before we can, and even not just educators, but our parents and our families understanding why STEM is the direction we need to go in. And so I think before we put that out to our peers, educators, families, we ourselves need to understand why we are STEM educators, STEM supporters. And so my challenge for all of you, and I would love to, give you some time to sit and write and brainstorm. How do you view yourself as a STEM educator? How do you as an educator view STEM? How do you see yourself in the approach that you are teaching? So what are some things that you might see are important when it comes to STEM? And so I just gave a couple of examples that I kind of had off of my head in this moment. And so some of the things and concepts that I see are important within STEM and why I am a STEM educator is because it establishes critical thinking within our students. It gives them these real world experiences instead of, making up things. Like, these students are really able to see themselves and their society in their work. We are using various forms of technology, and as a couple of us have mentioned, it is more than just using iPads and laptops. It's using the resources in our area and the tools that we have to really build and innovate what we're doing in our STEM approaches. And then on top, we have our hands-on experiences for students. We can have students read from a textbook all day, but what's going to really make an impact on them is being able to really get out there, get their hands dirty, and experience these things for themselves. Perry talked about this earlier, but I also think when we talk about STEM, we're also teaching our students about perseverance. When we allow them to fail and then try again and fail and try again, it builds that capacity for them in the future to not give up when things get hard. And I think that's what STEM does when we are teaching it in these project-based learning ways. Another is, like, we talked about these soft skills that they're learning, and we make them well-rounded learners. And last, this becomes approachable for everybody. When I think about STEM and how we are able to portray this out to our students, we make this in a way that these students feel successful, they can see themselves, and we make it in ways that makes it approachable and able to work within the means of themselves. And then we as educators support them through their discovery. And so these were just some of my beginning offhand ideas about what STEM means to me and why I teach STEM. And if you were to ask me to tell other people why STEM is important, these are some of my top things. I don't know if Perry or Emmanuel or Tiffany or anybody there wants to share out, but I really do want to encourage and challenge all of you to dig deep into why you are STEM educators. And then I think when you really get to see why and how and have that written down on paper, you are able to then spread that message and have it more clear because you are more clear with yourself. Okay. I'd like to share.
Hi, can everyone hear me and see me? So, I would say I'm not necessarily the STEM educator. I'm the person that runs the program. So I think what's important for me is to have the right people teaching. And so to have two educators like Perry and Kiana that have the knowledge and skill, because when we started this program, they were able to not only bring in their knowledge, but understand it all. And so my why is making sure that students that don't typically have access to STEM get it. And so that is my push, is to make sure that kids that look like me, like Perry, like Kiana, kids that grow up in communities that may not have the resources, kids that don't believe they can, I want to make sure we have a program that proves to them that they belong. So that's my why for STEM.
Perry, do you have something to say, or should I just hop in?
I'll go ahead. Yeah, so I mean, my why is very similar to Kiana's and Tiffany's. I think it's really about the fact that I want every student to feel that science or just any STEM field is an option for them. I want them to leave Starbase knowing that if this is something that you want to do, you are 100% capable of it, no matter what you look like, no matter where you come from. You want to make sure that you see yourself as a scientist. Not every single person that I teach is going to be a scientist, but I want them to have that option. And I also want them to have the tools to navigate this world. I think this world is full of science, technology, and engineering and mathematics. And the more you know about it, the more you're able to be an informed citizen. You can make a difference in your community. You can vote. You can create positive change and contribute to these things. But that's only going to happen if you understand STEM and you understand that mindset. So I want students to leave with that mindset of you can be you can go into these fields if you want to. And if not, it's still going to be important. It's going to affect your life.
So, okay, let me just, and I'll get to you. So if I was to say why STEM is important, first I'll look at our country, our context, the challenges that we're facing. I'll look at our country and our context, the challenges that we are facing, the problems that we have, one of which is usually a very high rate of unemployment. Like I told you at the beginning, I'm a business person, I'm an entrepreneur. I own startups in renewable energy and IT. I'm doing well, if I may say. And I think that it's an option for a lot of the youths and a lot of people out there. Rather than cry and complain about the lack of jobs out there, the lack of opportunities, they could create opportunities for themselves. And I was able to create opportunities for myself by pursuing a career track and education in STEM. So I feel like if we can empower more kids out there with the same STEM learning and STEM orientation that someone like me had, because I do teaching and STEM instruction on my free time, that is volunteering and all that. So, and it's really to drive this vision forward. So I feel like if we could empower more kids with STEM skills, they could create the jobs that the government doesn't give them for themselves. They could create opportunities out there for themselves. They could be inventors, innovators, and entrepreneurs too. So that is really my own take on why should someone get into tech. You could be your own, myself, your own self, your own boss. You could make a way out in this very difficult times that we have by having those critical thinking, creative spirit, problem solving that comes with STEM. A lot of people are millionaires today because they solved the problem. And then they solved that problem because they were able to critically think about the problem, be creative about coming up with a solution, and then dare be bold enough to bring out a solution to the world. So that would be my take on why people should get into STEM. Thank you.
Okay. Yeah, I wish to ask a question to STARBASE. I don't know if you have had any experience teaching a kid with disability, and how inclusive is your program?
We have had students with disabilities in our program. We've had visually impaired students. We've had students with various learning disabilities. We allow all students in our program, and we do our best to meet their needs through different scaffolds. So we make tasks smaller, we change tasks a little bit to meet their specific needs. One example is we were coding robots and we had a visually impaired student. So what we did is we created maps that were able to be, they were tactile, or they were able to feel. We laid down some glue so the student was able to feel rather than see the maps. Kiana also did a support for her in our computer-aided design, where instead of using the mouse to click on different commands, she used keyboard commands. So instead of clicking on extrude, she would click Control E. So we just try to meet the needs of all of our students, because we do allow all students at STARBASE.
And to add on to that, a lot of our activities are extremely hands-on. And so even with our students that have some sort of a disability, our activities are approachable because they have the ability to be in it and really get support from us and their peers as they're going through these processes. And so we just kind of have some built-in supports that come with our activities that support our students that might have some sort of a learning disability. We're intentional.
Question? Okay, great. Thanks, Kiana. Thanks, Barry. Okay, another question?
Yes, please. I just wanted to ask STARBASE about their program, when the program is, and can someone visit, like to know more about how you carry out your programs, to maybe go through the sessions, gain more experience, and especially when you're working with disability, because I know that part of it is not really easy. Can I visit maybe someday, maybe during your activities? I will be so glad if you would give me that invitation.
We would love to have you. Tiffany, did you kind of want to take a lead on what STARBASE is and some of the, and then we can go into some of the activities? That's okay.
I'm sorry, could you restate that for me, Kiana? What was the question?
Oh, yes. Oh, yeah, or you can just restate your question. Actually, go for it.
I was asking if I could visit during the activities to gain more experience on how you take the pupils or the kids through the STEM education, and especially for the disability inclusion. That inclusion, I really want to have a hands-on experience on how you include them during your trainings.
So we obviously could work on something via video, right? I'm not asking if you're asking to come to the US or just watch through like Zoom, but we can look at scheduling and time and figure out when our students are coming that may have some additional needs, and possibly schedule a time where we could maybe do a live Zoom where you could be able to watch and ask questions.
Okay, thank you so much.
Another question?
Okay, thank you everyone for giving me the opportunity to ask this question. So far with the workshop, I'm very happy because I've learned a lot. And by definition, all of us here are in one way or the other STEM advocates. And what we want for our children is that they should get themselves involved more into STEM, because we have seen the lots of opportunities that it brings along. Now, my question is, what's the right balance? We are making STEM education to be like a sort of trend now. And the students that are not into STEM or that are passionate about some other things like history, culture, arts, design, drawing, they might feel stigmatized because we are trying to tell them that what they are doing is pointless, actually. And how do we find the right balance to be promoting STEM education, but making sure that the other people that are passionate about the other fields, that also count, because for us to grow in all the aspects, all the spheres of life, we need that balance between all the other fields. How do we promote STEM, but make sure that the other students passionate about other things don't feel like stigmatized, like what they're doing is pointless? How do we give them, I mean, you get it?
Now, Tiffany, we want to hop on that and answer that question.
Emmanuel, can you maybe just clarify for me a little bit?
Okay.
Go ahead. Can you clarify that a little bit more
This
for me?
question is really about how we advocate and promote STEM education, which is really science, engineering, maths, without making people that are passionate about other things like design, modeling, the arts, really. How do we promote STEM without making other kids that are passionate about other things like the literal arts, poetry and stuff like that, without feeling like what they are doing is pointless and that?
I think one of the biggest pieces of it is for people to understand that when we talk about STEM, we talk about it like it's something separate. And we have to start talking about STEM as part of life. So, for example, if someone is working on an art project and they have to use a certain amount of paint, or they have to use a certain size of canvas, like letting them know that that's part of STEM. If they have to measure, if they have to add, if someone is in agriculture, like they understand that that's part of STEM. So the biggest piece is letting people know that STEM is not like a separate thing to learn, but it becomes a way of life. And the more we talk in STEM language around other parts of what people are doing, the more they'll see that it is every single thing that we do every single day. Does that make sense?
Yes, actually.
And I also think it's important to, like, as Tiffany just said, like, these aren't separate things. Like, we want to make STEM and all of our subjects that we are teaching our students cohesive, and interdisciplinary is super important when we talk about STEM and how it can relate to everything that we do in life outside of just science, technology, engineering, and math. It is the skills and the mindset that students get from these STEM approaches that they could be successful in other areas in the world. We're not saying just do STEM, we're saying do STEM and then also foster the passions that your students have And by way of that, still honoring what they want to do, but understanding that the STEM approach and how we teach STEM can be very beneficial to them as students for life.
Yes, and the other part about it is there is a big change here in the US, not change, a push, I would say, is some schools are doing STEAM. So it's not just science, technology, engineering, and math, but now they're doing science, technology, engineering, arts, and math. So they're changing the STEM to expand so that students and adults understand that it's all of these things that are encompassed in just a way of life. So we're seeing a lot of movements from STEM to STEAM in schools and organizations.
Yeah, the last part you just added, Tiffany, that's what I was about to add on top of this. So I think the question was perfectly answered. Awesome. Another question? All right, so we have no other question here, so I think we can proceed.
I personally I don't think we as STARBASE have any more left that we have to directly share. I don't know if we wanted to have any more discussions on our why or any other questions that anyone has around STEM practices.
I would ask Emmanuel if you, I don't know if you shared with the participants there your visit to STARBASE or your experience, but that may be something that you like to share because you actually came to the program and saw some of the activities that we were working on. So I don't know, Emmanuel, if you've already shared or if that's something you want to share with the participants.
Well, I did speak about it very briefly when introducing the workshop, but last summer, I think August, in August, I was at STARBASE in High Sierra, Nevada. The STARBASE is the Department of Defense program, where kids are able to go. I mean, this stands aside from their actual education and all that. They can go to the naval base. It's actually found right in the middle of the naval base. That's why the other day there was a lot of noise. Those were drill calls. So it's right in the middle of a naval base. It's a really awesome environment for kids to learn because they are surrounded by some really cool things. They have like really cool tech provided by the US Army. We all know how the US Army is and how awesome and intimidating all your stuff is. So this have
US, the air side, US Air Guard.
Yeah,
Air Guard.
So they have this really amazing and cool tech that they make available to the students to learn a lot of things. Aside from that, the fact that the students are right in the Air Guard base, they can do some really cool stuff. They get to go on the cargo planes. They get to see all that happens in the base there. And I came right one of those days when they were working on some really cool stuff. They had this ops, this robotic ops, where they were trying to make them carry a load and float in water. And yeah, there was this session going on, and you could see right there the kids reiterating, doing the design, it's not working. And then they persevere, they reiterate, and right there, we saw the designs working. I was with a friend, we saw the designs working right there. So being at STARBASE for just that one day, that I was chance to really influence the program I'm doing here. A lot of the things that I came back right after there and added on my programs were things I learned at STARBASE. Just in one day, I was able to immerse myself in what learning there is like. Prior to that, our program didn't involve engineering design activities. So it was right after my visit at STARBASE when I came back, I started implementing a lot of these activities, all these critical thinking activities. So it was really a perspective changing experience for me and my program. I wasn't the only one that benefited from that visit. All the kids here at STEM Ignite, they benefited a lot from that. Our program was a lot more improved, a lot more engaging. You saw the very cool engineering design activities videos I shared yesterday. You saw how engaged the kids were. That was based on that visit that I had at STARBASE, and really having the kids go through. I can't pull up the pictures because they're deep in my archives, but I got to get on a cargo plane too and then really do some cool stuff there.
Thank you, Emmanuel, for sharing. Yes, we were just so glad to have you there. We love to show off Starbase.
So I think at this point, except and Ron, we've basically come to the end of our workshop. So I think this is the end of the 4 days. Before I say any other thing, I really want to thank Stephanie and Perry and Kiana for dedicating so much time, so much of their very valuable time for 4 days to share all these amazing things with us. I believe today they woke up at 5 a.m. So we're connecting at 5 a.m. A lot of us cannot do it at 5 a.m. So they were up at 5 a.m. just to share all this valuable insight with us. So I could not thank them enough. I could not thank them enough. I met Tiffany while at the US for my fellowship program. Tiffany was my home host. We had a lot of fun drinking, playing board games, fighting. So I had most of my fun in US being with Tiffany every Friday. That was the most fun I had in the US, and I didn't even think that we would get to work on an amazing project like this, because all the time we spent, it was just laughing, having fun and all that, and we didn't even talk about what we do and all that. But it was right when I came back that I was like, hey, what do you even do? And at the end of the program, I was like, what do you even do? And we found out that we do a lot of the same things. Tiffany is an instructor lecturer at UNR at the University of Reno, Nevada. She is a businesswoman and a business consultant, and she's a program director at STARBASE. So she does amazing work with an amazing team. I got to meet Perry and Kiana too during my visit. Very passionate about the work they do with the kids. You can see the same passion that transmits when they're sharing all their experiences and all their best practice with you. So thank you so much. Thank you so much for taking this time out. I believe the participants of this workshop are going back with a lot that they've learned, and it's all thanks to you guys and the dedication that you had to this. I have to admit, I still feel very embarrassed to have you wake up this early for us. I still feel very embarrassed doing that to you guys. I'm so grateful that you were able to pull through for me. Thank you so much.
We thank you for a wonderful opportunity. Emmanuel was a gracious person to be for me to host. He's family now, and so my mother even asked about him, but just being able to do this project has been an eye-opening experience and enlightenment, and you all are doing amazing work, and we hope that we have opportunity to have future collaborations. Perry, Kiana?
Yeah, I was going to say something very similar. This has been amazing for me as well. I have loved hearing about what you were all doing with your students and the passion that you have for teaching STEM, and how in the pictures that you showed us shows that your passion spreads to them. And so it has been great for us to also see how other people are teaching STEM to their students. So thank you for sharing and being a part of this workshop with us.
Yeah, I would say that you are all very inspiring, just hearing your stories, hearing what you're doing in the classroom. So thank you for taking your time to come talk with us, share your experience, share your ideas and everything. And like Tiffany said, I hope we're able to collaborate more in the future, because this was very eye-opening for me, and it's made me even more excited to teach STEM here.
I agree.
Awesome. So before we actually end the session, as is customary and practice for an international workshop session like this one, we have certificates of participation that attest to each and every one of you engagement to follow through with this workshop for 4 days. That really goes a long way to show how dedicated you are to the cause, how dedicated you are to promoting STEM education. Some of you are coming out of town. Some of you are coming out of town to be here with us. So it takes a lot of passion from each and every one of you to take time out of your very busy schedules, your probably teachers and workers and all that, to be here every day with us. And that really shows how impactful what we have been doing for the 4 days really is. It doesn't mean anything if we had an empty hall, but having people coming every day from the first day, not skipping a beat, that goes a long way to be a testament to how inspiring and insightful what we've been sharing these days are. So I'm going to quickly share your certificates of participation, and we will try as much as possible with the lighting and all that to take a family picture with Kerry, Kiana, and Tiffany in the background before we leave. Okay.
Hey.
So some people are online. I might call their names here, but we'll send your certificates digitally. That it gives you the chance to like put a name on all the participants. I've been asking this very mind-boggling questions all this day. So I'll be calling their names and they will come and collect their certificates. Are we set? Good. All right. So Shiminyi Yvette. Step up. Bill René Fabrice. Okay. There you go. Thank you so much for your participation. Jai Hansen Chimtom. Tukov Johannes. Thank you so much. Awesome. Apum Gonu Rosetta. Kamkwimo Nelson. Edith Amabu Bell.
Thank you, God, and thank you, Father. I'm not saying that you really run the show.
Gong Charlotte.
Butterfly the fly, but you know we touch the sky. Do your own, leave the rest to God. Does any man
Juliet Frimpoma.
You say sure you true, you support it. Repose and beg in the man. Pray for me. Papa, give me money, oh. Pray for me, blessings for your papa. Amen. Amen, oh, amen.
Kabi Mongbuti.
Blessings for your mommy, oh, amen. Amen, oh, amen. Blessings for your family. Amen, oh.
Benchamayu. Photo Ashley.
I say my people wanna put me down, so Celio, back to no bring me witch. I so picking and no die. I who God don't bless, no man can curse. Make una live my life alone, jealousy.
Young boy Dixon.
Say mommy prayer for your picking, oh, I'm yo, I'm yo. Say papa prayer for your picking, oh, I'm yo, I'm yo. El Chaco sing for them, mommy. I'm you, I'm me. Come in if on this one.
Cyril Fonyoy.
Blessings for your papa. Blessings for your mommy. Blessings for your family.
Monju Patrick. Come on, Flo. Yes, sir.
Comment from Afrique somewhere. La vie m'a pas donné des cadeaux. Je prie que Dieu protège mon âme, ouais. Let them know what's in me, got my pride. Thank you, God, and thank you, Father. No say that you run the show. Plenty blessings on my mama. Make me glow and make me grow. Mama, make me forget you. Cause I punya, we go bless. One love for my man, there for my face. Blessings for your papa. Blessings for your mama. Blessings for your mommy.
Go back some of that.
Blessings for your family. Blessings for your
Marie Martin Yobol. And Jack Clovet Apple. Côté dia Oscar. Tipo Opa Esdras.
Moi je t'apprécie. Mami t'es magique. Para, para, para. You drive me crazy. Oh no no no. Tu me mets KO.
So that sums it all for our participants. We just gather in front here and take first capture Shannon and Perry in the background.
Godfather, she knows see I be done dada. He's a most protector. Yeah. Girl, I'ma give you some sweet sex. Mommy, you know say you my princess. Sweet sex, smoking sweet sex. She got my pretty, gotta go.
Yeah, another one. Awesome.
Okay. Didn't want my whole name on my certificate.
I couldn't enter.
Oh,
Yes,
alright, I
yes.
understand. Yeah, not so.